Commissioners, the meeting is live.
Well, welcome to the March 6th meeting, Raleigh County Commissioners. Please stand and join the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public comment? Commissioners?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it pulled up here. Sorry about that. Oh boy, it's been a week so far. Monday morning, of course, was day 3 of the NACO Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. They started off with the general morning session where we heard from our current NACO president, James Gore. He's a supervisor from Sonoma County, California. We discussed NACO's federal priorities and what he continues to do and work on as president, at least till July anyway. Then we heard from newly appointed U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins. Interesting enough was the, what do you call it? Person that gets kicked out on the State of the Union speech.
Oh, Sergeant in Arms.
No.
Speaker of the House? No, no.
Well, anyway,
The person-
designated survivor. There it is.
Oh,
He ended up being the designated survivor Tuesday night.
like in that TV series that
Exactly.
had Kiefer Sutherland in it? Oh, like
Did you
that's-
know that they not also have one for the president, but they have a member of Congress stay back too?
Oh,
So the
wow.
series is actually correct when they
That's-
mention that. So
Yeah, do
There's
you
a
guys?
movie on that
Yeah.
several years ago.
So basically, like if something were to happen to the Capitol, we would have one elected person
from each
that's from each that's still alive,
Mhm.
right? I don't.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Anyway, I'll continue on. And he went through his visions and priorities for the department while being secretary. And then lastly, we heard from Alex Meyer, director of the White House Office of Governmental Affairs. And he discussed how his office is planning to work with local units of government for the duration of his term. Later, they opened up the Federal Advocacy and Agency Expo, where many of the federal departments, offices, and agencies were on hand to answer questions and concerns and provide information to county officials on challenges and issues. Monday afternoon, made it up to Capitol Hill, met with Zachary Hampton, who's a legislative assistant in Congressman Tracy Mann's office. Discussed a handful of items, including military and veterans issues at Fort Riley, rural and transportation infrastructure projects, of course, the federal funding cuts and other pertinent challenges pertaining to federal red tape. I followed that same dialogue in Senator Jerry Moran's office, where I met with his chief of staff, James Kelly, and his legislative director, Mark Crowley, whom I've obviously met and talked to many times up on the Hill before. We had the same dialogue, as I mentioned, discussing those same items. Tuesday morning was the last day of the conference. Once again, we started out with the general session that included some opening remarks, once again, from our president, James Gore. We heard from Senator Ron Wyden, who's a Democrat from Oregon. He discussed rural education and medical initiatives. Next up was the newly appointed Secretary of the United States Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. She discussed and laid out the vision and priorities for her department moving forward. Then we heard from United States Representative Sam Graves, Republican from Missouri, discussed what he and the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is working on, which he's now chairing. They've got some goals and priorities upcoming that they're just starting to lay out. Then we heard from United States Representative David Kustoff. He's a Republican from Tennessee. He discussed several bipartisan pieces of legislation he's working on, including, keep our fingers crossed, the new farm bill, which would be great. Next, we had a panel discussion with President James Gore and United States Senator Alex Padilla from California. Together, they discussed the importance of emergency management, in particular dealing with wildfires, because they're both in California, obviously, and natural disasters in general, and how the federal, state, and local partners all have to assist when these occur. And it just kind of brought me back to last week's discussion on that GO2 presentation that we had here. There was a lot of combinations of that incorporated in the conversation as well. Then we also heard from NACO's second vice president candidates, Lisha Bell, commissioner from Wayne County, Michigan, and Bob Dixon, commissioner from Greene County, I put Mississippi, but that's actually Missouri. Anyway, they had a chance to stump and state their case for the position, in which they'll get a vote in the annual Business and Expo, which is in Philadelphia in July. Tuesday afternoon, made it up to Capitol Hill again. Lot going on with the State of the Union speech taking place there. It was a little chaotic. First met with Nathan Mark and Lacey Pitts, legislative assistants in Senator Roger Marshall's office. That was an interesting visit, I just might add. We discussed a handful of local items, including challenges at Fort Riley, rural and transportation infrastructure, and much like the conversation on Monday, federal funding. And just had some other congressional dialogues there too. Then went across the way and I met with Logan Wiltshire, who's a staffer, and then Congressman Derek Schmidt himself in his office to discuss Fort Riley. Of course, I'm not in his district, so we just discussed Fort Riley. Irwin Army Community Hospital in particular did discuss our WIC and child care services while there. They're working on a plan to try to get DOD to not expand that, but kind of look at that kind of differently. Look at it from a different angle instead of just looking at it based on pure numbers, because with all the deployments and everything else that we've had lately, it kind of skews what the numbers actually are. It makes it look worse than it actually is. So we need to give it time while everybody's actually here on base to see what that looks like. So we got regular military services, veteran services. I asked if he would put spousal and quality of life services on there too, which he said he would be more than willing to do. So we'll see how that works out. So, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I almost didn't get off the hill in time before they started shutting it down for the State of the Union speech. That would have been really, really interesting. I gave my Uber driver a really good tip, by the way, so that all worked out. Tuesday night, had a president's reception in the International Ballroom there at the Hilton. Had a chance to meet some executives from both IBM and Oracle. Had a really good conversation there on networking and cybersecurity, and some county officials from the state of Nevada. I I don't know if they were together or whatnot, but there was an open chair, so I just asked if I could sit and then had a good conversation. I had food for days. Oh my gosh. I mean, food station here, pasta, burgers, barbecue. Holy cow, I couldn't do it. Barbecue. Really good barbecue. And I'm not a fan of East Coast barbecue.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, it was actually pretty good. And they must have got somebody from Texas or Memphis or something to do. I don't know, but it was actually pretty good and I was pretty impressed. But anyway, came back yesterday, got settled back in. Here we are this morning. Sorry it took so long.
That's fine.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't have quite as interesting a week as you did. Yeah, let's see, I mean. Tuesday, I had several meetings at my church. We're working on, all the things going on with Lent and Easter and trying to pick out hymns and what we're gonna do with some microphones and just all sorts of stuff. So that took a lot of time. And then, yesterday I made the trek to Wichita to meet with the doctor, in the wind. The roads were clear, but the wind, it was a horrendous trip. And, seal on my door was not good, so all the wind was coming in the car, and it was just anyway. So it looks like I'm headed to some sort of spinal surgery, and which doesn't sound good, but we'll work through it and figure it out. So we haven't got an appointment set with the doctor, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so there's going to be a lot going on there, but. Let's see, I missed a couple meetings trying to get back in time, but I missed a couple meetings. One was the military relations and the other was the Western Business Association, which I had planned to go to. I thought I could get back in time, but the doctor was like over an hour ago the appointment, so threw me off. But and then last night I got in and went to Bellflower practice and went home and went to sleep. That was it for me.
Kind of impact and went to sleep too. I think I'm suffering some jet lag.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, I a couple of meetings this week that were either postponed or canceled, so it's kind of cleared some time, but and yesterday I had a meeting with Erin Flair, she's the Riley County Schools Superintendent. She had asked to have a meeting about the SROs at the schools with, because of the changes Director Pete's wanted to make. We had a good discussion, we talked about the SROs and about RHID projects being proposed, and then got into housing in general and talked about childcare. Covered a lot of stuff, and it was a good meeting. We each learned a lot from each other. I think it was a good contact. I knew who she was, but I had never even met her. But we had a nice long meeting. So that's all I've got.
Did you know she's Earl Plummer's niece?
Yeah.
First item, commissioners need a motion on written testimony in support of county home rule amendment.
Anything we should know?
Commissioners, would you like me to comment from the seat or up at the podium?
To the chair.
Commission, Brian Parker, County Counselor. This written testimony is merely an extenuation of longstanding policy in support of county home rule. What it does specifically, though, is a little differently than what we've done in the past. Each of the commission has prior done oral and or written testimony in favor of home rule and explained why it's needed and that the government that governs closest governs best, right? What I thought might be useful to focus on in light of some of the opposition that it's received in the past is what home rule doesn't do. Right? It doesn't give us the authority to go and regulate agriculture.
Right.
I stopped short of explaining that no rational county commission would ever try to regulate agriculture because they're the people that elect the county commission along with everyone else. And that would be sacrilege in the state of Kansas. But I didn't think it was important to put that in there. So instead, it just says we can't do it anyway because there's a uniformly applicable state statute and then some other things that we would not be using it for. And it just highlights something that it highlights something of local concern that we would be using it for. And says that basically, if you would give us county home rule, you would get less calls from constituents asking the state legislature to do things that the state legislature should not be spending its time on because it's an issue in a single county or two counties. And so I threw all that in there and hopefully it won't just go to file 86 if we entertain it. And with that, I'd stand for any questions.
The only thing I have, it's long. I'm wondering how many of them, if they get a stack of emails and this one's 3 pages, do they go through it? I mean, there was, covered a lot of stuff in there, but I just wonder how many will stick with 3 pages when they start reading it.
That is a Commissioner, that is a very that's a very good question. And I wrestled with the length, right? I mean, I felt, and I'm happy to bring back an amendment that shortens it considerably and tries to, if that's something the commission would like, because I was trying to get the points home.
No, I didn't disagree with anything in it. I'm just wondering. But also you said that it's probably not going anywhere in this committee anyway.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't hurt to vote a few people.
Well, I think so, Commissioner. And the other thing is, I'm just going to be blunt from the podium, right? We all love our friends at Farm Bureau, right? This letter was more to address the opposition that comes up every year. It seems like the only reason why county home rule hasn't happened is that the farm lobby kills it every time. And they already don't care about county issues like they probably should, because they've got other things on their minds. This letter is to educate the farm lobby more than anything else that we're not trying to harm them, right? I don't understand why it isn't apparent that, maybe Johnson County, but how much farming actually goes on in Johnson County anyway, right?
You'd be surprised down south, you really would.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know the key to that though is actually county home rule would actually help the farm lobby if they actually looked at it from the other direction because not all of the 105 counties are equal. And what's needed out of each of your county farm bureaus is different. And the relationship that each one of those counties has and usually is different. And county home rule would allow that to happen, allow that conversation to actually, and the depth of that conversation and the depth of that relationship to actually strengthen.
Look, I couldn't agree more. And the other thing I would add to all of this is that we're powerless anyway to do hardly anything that could even affect agriculture. And anything that we could do, we are already entrusted with the authority to do, which is basically regulate the weight of vehicles that go across our bridges.
Which has come under question this year.
Yeah, and
Not by us,
Not
not by
by
us too. The irony of that. Okay.
And so I throw it out there, and I'm not trying to keep us on a consent agenda item, or a business meeting item, but I throw it out there and I sat for hours and tried, I was doing other things, but I tried to figure out what could we possibly do that could negatively affect agriculture as a county. And the only things I could come up with would be blatantly unconstitutional, even under the federal constitution. And so I don't understand what the concern is, but I'm just not smart enough maybe. So.
And furthermore, cities and municipalities have constitutional home rule. Dare say agriculture does exist in cities, small cities in particular, that's already there and available. So, at the end of the day, there's not much change there that's not already available here. It's the same thing.
I would agree with that, Commissioner. And I don't think there's a realistic, I can't even imagine anything that we would do that a county would consider doing that could have a negative effect on agriculture that isn't already prohibited by uniform state law, right? And
Or one of the 30-something other exceptions that are already included that wouldn't be unincluded with this because they're already written into statute.
yeah, and even if none of those exceptions remained, which as you're right, it would stay, they would all stay. Even if you removed all those exceptions, there still isn't anything that dealt with a uniform state law that we would do. And so I don't see what the concern is, but hopefully this educates our friends in the farm lobby. I don't know. That sounded arrogant. I'm not trying to educate. I'm not trying to say that. Hopefully this makes them more aware that we're friends. I don't know. Does the commission want to have me update the letter or adopt as is, or?
It's okay. I did want to mention too that I had this conversation on this resolution with Bruce and Jay Hall at KAC, and they're willing to write verbal testimony in favor too.
Good.
With or without a hearing. They tend to believe the same thing, that it being state and federal affairs or federal and state affairs. Same thing, whatever. That it's probably not going to get a hearing just because leadership of the committee is not in favor. So.
The only thing that I was thinking is how to, get it circulated to the Farm Bureau and to maybe the Livestock Commission, some of those agencies. Are you going to send copies to them, or how does that?
That's an excellent question, Commissioner. And I actually have, after one of our legislative, what is it now, policy breakfast and not Good Morning Manhattan, right? Back when it was called Good Morning Manhattan, we and Farm Bureau's lobbyists made a presentation, struck up a little bit of a friendship, and I think I would just call him up and make him aware, and also, right? I think Tom and Dick and we could all have a meeting, right? I'm not saying that I'm an essential part of this meeting because they're all smarter than I am about the legislature and everything. But if I could be useful to basically explain that there isn't anything we're trying to do to harm farmers, we just need to be able to deal with stuff like nuisances without having to get a state statute passed that allowed us to go and do nuisance enforcement, right? Because I'm pretty sure that not to belittle the Riley County Unincorporated Area Nuisance Abatement Act, right, which was important legislation for us. I'm not sure that it was the favorite thing for the Kansas legislature to be spending its time on. And if we actually had home rule, they wouldn't have to, right? We could have dealt with that locally. So that'd be the discussion.
Okay. see. Well then, I would make a motion to approve the written testimony from our county counselor. The letter that goes to the written testimony in support of county home rule amendment to the Kansas Constitution.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the written testimony in support of county home rule amendment as presented in the 2025 Senate concurrent resolution 1605. All in favor?
I
All three, please sign.
didn't scroll down. Scroll up.
Here. Next, Commissioner, need a motion on advisory board appointment to Public Waste Management Committee.
Go ahead and make a motion then to appoint Savannah Lee to the Solid Waste Management Committee and approve resolution number 030625, a resolution appointing a representative to the Solid Waste Management Committee.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to appoint Savannah Lee to the Solid Waste Management Committee and approve resolution 030625, appointing a representative to the Solid Waste Management Committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Three, please sign. The motion, Commissioner, to approve payroll and accounts payable.
I would make a motion to approve payroll and accounts payable.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve payroll and accounts payable. All in favor?
Aye.
All three, please sign. Simple.
Oh, yeah.
John.
That's too close. Sit back here like a sure.
No.
Well, when you're late, you're supposed to sit in front, you know.
Punishment. Hurt you to pray while you're here.
I pray every time I come in, on my way down here.
Amen.
It's a long prayer, huh?
Yeah, probably.
Amen.
So those roundabout working, and now it's even longer.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Don't get me started.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
No, they're
So
working
here
on
for
the
this.
bypass lane and then they owned the other
Yeah, keep it
direction
coming.
already. So.
I haven't been out there for a while.
You wait too much longer, you won't be able to get through.
Well, that's true.
You got me satellite office ready?
I'll move a couple of papers and stuff.
What are you talking about? You already have a satellite office. You don't need a third.
Who says?
You should just share an office with John. Like the best office.
There you go. I like Michelle's ideas.
It's a rather big office.
It is.
I've been working on it.
There's opposite windows there, so you don't have to face each other. It'll be all right.
No, I had
That's conference
hard
room
time
too.
working with one, you have both of you in there.
Maybe we ought to do the conference room for our meetings.
Yeah.
That's a nice conference room.
Any changes to the minutes, commissioners?
That's a good idea.
I didn't either. I can go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes as written from the, what day was that again? March 3rd? I wasn't even here. March 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the March 3rd meeting as presented. All in favor?
Tentative agendas look okay, commissioners?
Good.
Any items for next week's press conference? Would all of you like to attend the policy breakfast Thursday, March 20th at 7:30?
Yes.
Did they say
Ryan?
this?
Yes,
did
sir,
they say
and
this
Jacob.
Presenting.
Yeah, it's the city of Manhattan, city manager and the mayor.
Oh, okay. That's next Thursday, the 13th, right?
20th.
20.
Oh,
And then we also
Okay.
have the Commissioners 49th Annual County Commissioners Association Conference Monday through Wednesday, April 21st and 23rd.
We kind of have to be at this one.
All of you want regular conference and pre-conference or
now where is it?
It's here.
here?
Oh, okay.
I don't know about definitely the conference. I don't know about the pre-conference yet. I haven't got an agenda.
Get with Cindy, let her know.
So those of you.
21st through 23rd of April.
20.
First through the what?
23rd of April.
We were talking about that out in DC, and I thought that's when.
Can't you see?
It's Commissioner Conference.
Oh,
CC.
Just let Cindy know in the pre-conference
Okay.
and I'll have her check with you.
I'll check with Kim at KAC and see what they're.
We got you down for the full conference, so it's time for Mr. Meyer.
Don't need a hotel room either.
Okay, good. You weren't getting one.
Good morning, Commission. Corey Meyer, ITGIS Director here for a staff update. Talk about some projects, some exciting news and well, some not so good news in some various areas as we go through, you'll understand. GIS, I'll start there. They've been trucking along as normal. This has been an unusual month for them. They did have one employee out for a month-long jury duty.
Oh, that one.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
And to our neighbors. And it's still ongoing this week, actually. So
Probably ongoing for probably next week.
Boy,
And the next
that'd be
week.
a doozy to be on.
And
Right.
probably next year, the following year.
So,
You're-
but
Yeah.
yeah, no miss of any step of projects work getting completed up there. And as always, all praise to our GIS and their great team. I am able to announce that Jake was selected to be a presenter at the user conference this summer. So really cool that Riley County will have a presenter at the Esri National User Conference. So that's exciting. And Jake is already preparing. He had to put together what his presentation would be about and go through an approval process. And so very cool for us in Riley County, and again, a testament to the good work and hard work that they do. Some of the boilerplate, typical helping with Zoom meetings, websites, help desk items, monthly update processes that we do, activations, deactivations. I'm going to skip around a little bit because there will be more to talk about on a couple of items. Security, we've had to do a lot here so far at the beginning of the year, but I can't really talk about those things in open forum on some of the work we have to do. That's just the nature of IT in those areas. Adabus remodel is wrapping up. We've got a few interior things left to do to help with their remodel that they had going on. We're going to begin the fax line migration here at this campus, moving from hardline to a cloud-based, so that when we move our phone system off of our current in-house to WebEx in the summer, we will have those lines done and out of the way. We've completed that process out at all of our other campus locations, Public Works and the noxious weed, those health department and so forth. So we'll be making some fax changes here at this location. Again, as I just mentioned, so our phone system transition from our in-house call manager to WebEx. We're now to the point where we're going to migrate my office into there so we can continue doing testing. It will not disrupt calling to us or help desk tickets, needing help on anything, but it gives us now our lines and our phones will be out on that platform so we can work through what issues there are. Then we'll add another department out in there as well that has calling tree being those departments that when you dial the number, then it asks to press 1, press 2 for this, press 3 for that. We'll move one of those out. That will give us a full scale test before we do a broad sweep move of everybody in the county out to that. Inventory is always an ongoing. We've filled the basement again, and we'll be looking to move items out to Public Works for auction, which I think is a topic that
Seems like every time somebody needs to move, it's always Public Works.
yeah. The auction process and what we do, I think, is one that has got some discussion and some ongoing discussion that needs to move along. Upgrades that we'll be doing throughout the year, monitors, laptops, desktops. The volume of those will all be pending how pricing works out here in 2025. And I will roll back to that. Some other projects we are involved in working on. I see the EMS construction out there in that building. So over the next few months, we will be more active out there and involved as the wiring gets completed, as we got to put camera systems up, and then as we get towards the June, July, when we start the transition of the staff. So we are all of our equipment that we will be putting in is here and ready, set up to go, which is good that it was purchased before 2025. Potter Hall, the extension office has reached out wanting to do some audio video upgrades inside that building, which I agree with needs to be done. So we'll be working with them, working with Daniel. He's been talking with the Fair Board, and the Fair Board's got some funding. So that's in its early stages. So of what we'll do, but that's a discussion that'll go on. The equipment we'll put in there will be one that can transition. A change is to be made in the overall building. I want to make sure, yes, that we will. We won't be putting anything in there that we will have to buy new and replace if change is made in that direction. I know that's a topic. As of recent last week, the appraiser's office assisting them in getting the 2025 values to the websites. getting property record cards, change value notices, all those documents out to the website so that citizens of Riley County can have that information to look at. A good process again this year. Anna's staff, Alan is very involved in that, getting all those documents ready, getting them to us, and then we push those out. It's about 100,000 documents by the time we take out the old, put in the new. We transition 100,000 documents between the various viewerships and levels that can be seen on our website. But that went very smooth. We're assisting the courts. They are a pilot for in each courtroom is digital audio recording, and now we're piloting them with them in one courtroom to tie that digital recording into their case management system so that that is recorded together. And so it's a process that the state of Kansas is pushing, and we offered to pilot here, and that process is moving forward. We have been a long-term user of audio digital recording all the way back to 2011 in our courtrooms. So it's been something that we've done and stored those, and they use for a long time. So it's there's a large amount of data out there, and it's very useful. Those things are used when we don't have court reporters within the courtrooms, which is a hard position for them to fill, and they need to go back and do translation of a court that took place, and they listen to that audio, and then they transition that into paper and things as part of what they do. The emergency management or old EMS building, emergency management remodel, I don't know what we're phrasing that, but that one's starting to take some steps forward. We've seen some first plans and things, so we've got meetings scheduled coming up, started to talk about those. So we will again be the audio video that will go into the conference rooms, and much of that again will be like the modernization that I've talked about, what we'll be doing in here, and those type features. So that one's starting to take steps forward. Monday I was in here and you approved for the upgrade to this room. I've got a follow-up meeting today, this afternoon on that. They're bringing in their engineer team, so we're moving that one right along. So that was going well. So thank you on that. My team, sorry.
Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, long overdue.
My team is also, as I mentioned before, the FCRC conference room. That's a large room out there that we're going to upgrade the equipment in that, and so that we have a more modern set of equipment out there as well. Unfortunately, the bad news that I have been given from multiple vendors of ours is that after first quarter, we expect to see tariff cost increase on all of our purchases. So yesterday, this week, as I was pricing out a server that we need to replace, they told me that I needed to have it purchased by the end of March, or they would not honor the price, and I would see a 25% increase on that purchase. And so then I reached out to several of our other vendors, and I got the same message from them. We should expect between 10 and 25% increases, potentially after first quarter.
Did they give an explanation?
They reference tariffs. So
What is that in dollar amounts? You have that?
so the $15,000 server that I was getting ready to purchase, they told me that it would be probably 18,000 to 19,000. So it's a lot of the electronics and things that we order is Dell in particular. Their stuff's not manufactured here in the United States.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And so I'll be making that server purchase probably today and get that out of the way. But that was the warning, the potential warning that I would see is that after first quarter, we could see between 10 and 25% increases due to tariffs on our electronics. And so we will watch that closely, and in doing so, we will probably push a lot of our replacements. I don't want to spend ahead, and we're really early in the budget cycle, and I don't want to spend ahead and then get us stuck in a situation at the end of the year. I don't know, it's the catch-22, right? You could try to go now. But I don't think that's the right call with projects and things that are going on. So we will purchase some, but not an entire project. So if we were gonna replace 40 PCs, I might get 15 of them purchased now, but not,
Right.
you know, all of them.
But you do usually within budgeting,
I
put a
do.
contingency
I
in
do.
there. So
It's there.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
there. Yeah. Yeah. I planned ahead and those things, watched the tendencies. That's why I have a 7-year forecasted out, but I also have the analysis back where I've looked at. We all know when this tariff stuff happened before, and I look back at those costs to see where that was as well. So I'm there, I'm fine. The cushion's there, the planning is there. But it is what I
It could
was.
go one or two ways. It
Yep.
may not be much of a war
Right.
along the way, or
Right.
it may stretch out for
Right.
years. We don't know yet.
But it's what I have to keep aware of and think about as I go forward. So
Corey,
Yes, ma'am.
are there, none of those servers are manufactured in the United States? They all are out of country?
that's currently the case with, yes, with our vendor. Yeah, yeah.
I think
And
that's
it's
the
that
purpose.
way for
That's
the
the purpose.
Well,
majority.
that's the purpose of it,
Yeah.
but I'm just trying to-
Dell, HP, a lot of them, their manufacturing is actually in Mexico
Yes.
or it's gonna be over in China and so forth.
Mhm.
where those things come
Taiwan.
from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so, but, so we will keep an eye on it, we'll watch, but, it's just something I was to report as it was told to me, we'll watch for and see, so, the minute track replacement, so software that we use for agendas, minutes and so forth. We got a 6-month extension on the minute track product, so we can extend that out. Where meetings are going well with Cindy Gabriel, Michelle, Ashlyn, Vivian, getting through those things planned and looked at. We'll making sure that, you know, it'll be new. We've been a long-term user of minute track. I have to make sure we understand it's not going to be the same. It's not going to look the same, but we're working really hard to get the output and what's generated as an agenda and what our what everybody sees is very, very close to there. But a lot of us old dogs will have to learn new tricks, as they say. And how
Everyone
things
loves
work.
change.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I know. Yeah, for usually that bad guy change.
Should
So
I be writing down the password that?
let's not do that. No,
Okay.
you didn't say that, people. Folks, he's not writing down passwords.
Well, no, I mean,
No.
Vivian's already sent a link to it, and so I've already signed up. Do I need to write that password down now?
No.
You said it
Okay.
again.
Yeah.
What?
I know, I hate it too, but it's the world we live in. I mean, we could go back to just like, just pressing 1, I'd be okay, but
For security reasons, please do not write down passwords. Well, I don't want to have to disable your account.
how else am I supposed to remember it? I got 8,000 different things in a brain.
Just
It's
remember, that's
not-
one vote.
I know. I know.
And if I lock myself out, I'm calling you going, hey, I'm locked out, and usually it doesn't happen when I'm here.
I know. I'm always available to you, and believe me, that I get the Saturdays and Sundays when those things happen.
No, it doesn't happen then. It happens when I'm out of town
Yeah.
someplace, like Washington DC.
Yeah. But we watch for you when you leave.
Yeah, I know,
It's
I know.
fun.
Yeah.
No,
You've got a tracker on the computer, I know.
no.
One
So,
free when you come back.
Right, yeah, right.
any questions for me?
Good.
All right. Thank you.
One of the items you had, House Bill 2842.
Oh, that's the bill
Oh,
we're
yeah.
continuing to watch. That's for the courts. Apologies. Thank you. Yeah, we're watching for the courts and where they've said the potential of taking over IT services for courts in 2027.
Oh, yeah, right.
So I'm always going to have it there so that we can continue to just, you ask, we ask. I don't forget that we're keeping up on how that goes, because that will be certainly a very interesting one if they decide they want to move forward with that. Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you, Commission. Have a good day.
We have time. Kevin.
Go ahead.
You're up, Gavin.
You're up, sir.
Sounds good.
Gavin and Tyler.
Yeah, I think there's a presentation.
There is, just scroll down. It's
Scroll
that's
down.
right down. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, commissioners, thanks for allowing Tyler and myself. I'm Gavin Schmidt. This is Tyler Hallman. Just to explain a little bit about our project that we're moving through the system and give you guys some information and an opportunity to make comments, ask questions, provide feedback. So Tyler's going to go ahead and start the presentation, and then I'll kind of take the second half of this.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for your time today. My name is Tyler Holloman. I'm the president of Frontier Development Group in Manhattan, Kansas. As Gavin mentioned, we're working together on this Manhattan infill housing project. I know we're here primarily to talk about the RHID component, but what we thought might be helpful for you is just to give you a quick overview of just the full project and what it looks like in total. So try and get this pulled up on the screen here. The project will deliver 44 new homes to Manhattan here in Riley County. 40 of those will be workforce housing homes. 4 of those will be market rate. One of the kind of unique things about this project is, it's not a full RHID project. So 32 of those homes will be coming to you for RHID, but 12 of those homes will be taxable immediately. So for those 12 homes at that specific site, we are not asking for, or we're not pursuing an RHID at that location. The project is funded with a pretty significant private investment, along with some state funding, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And we also wanted to note that we are, we're close to being ready for this project. So this is not something that's just a conceptual thing. We're hoping to actually start construction in 2025, with units starting to be delivered in 2026. Apologize that this is a little bit blurry, but this is the site map. So it is a 3-site project, all in infill locations across Manhattan. When we say infill, what we mean by that is, these are sites that aren't currently served by public infrastructure. So there's streets there, there's sewer, water, that sort of stuff. They're just underutilized sites. The first site is this, called the LK, I think it's called LK Flats officially, kind of in northwest Manhattan, right across from, I think, Stony Brook. The second site is the Lee Mill Village site. So this is a site that's not being proposed as RHID. It's currently a city-owned site that we've been working since 2023 with the city on coming up with a development plan for that location. And then the third site is what we're calling the Park Townhomes, which is just adjacent to City Park. So those are the 3 locations that make up the 44 units in this Manhattan infill housing project. We did want to take just a quick moment and say that this is kind of an all or nothing development. So we've really layered a lot of things in here, and specifically with the state of Kansas resources, we need to be able to complete all 40 of the workforce housing component of this project in one phase. So we kind of outlined 2 scenarios here. Scenario 1, if the RHID is approved at the city level and there's no adverse action taken by the county or the school district, then Riley County receives 40 workforce homes as well as the 4 market rate homes. And again, we wanted to highlight that this project enables 12 homes to immediately hit the tax rolls, with the additional 32 RHID homes coming online when that RHID is up. Scenario 2, if there's an adverse action taken against the RHID, it does put the full project in jeopardy. So Riley County, City of Manhattan would not receive any housing inventory. We'd obviously have missed economic impact from sales tax, as well as the no new property tax revenue from the 12 homes. The 2 separate, as I mentioned, there's 3 sites, only 2 are being proposed as RHIDs. So the 2 separate RHID sites would be the Little Kitten Flats site. So that's the 26 duplexes located along Little Kitten Avenue. Total projected budget around $8.8 million, with around $1.95 million in RHID requested. And then the second RHID site would be the Park Townhome site adjacent to City Park. That's a 6 townhome location, a little over $2 million project budget, with just under $500,000 in RHID abatement requested. And lastly, before I turn it over to Gavin to drill into some of the details, I did want to just take a minute and underscore the importance of this slide. Last Friday, Kansas Housing Resources Corporation announced their statewide awards, and the City of Manhattan was awarded $650,000 for an MIH grant, as well as $1.2 million in Kansas Housing Investor Tax credits for this specific project. And we believe that's pretty substantial because those are state dollars. They're highly competitive dollars. This is the first award of either of those for the City of Manhattan. I haven't fully checked, but I think offhand this would also be the first award in Riley County. As I mentioned, the state receives a lot of these awards. They're very, very competitive funds, and so we're pretty excited that they saw value in this project, that they want to see infill housing and workforce housing happen here in Manhattan. Besides for the obvious benefit of state dollars being imported here in Riley County, the added benefit is that the state actually monitors these funds, and so Frontier will have to report on a monthly and quarterly basis back to the state with maintaining affordability. That the state will actually have us qualify households to make sure that it meets the state guidelines for affordability. And additionally, we'll have to execute a land use restriction agreement, which is like called a LORA, which any tax credit projects have to execute. So that way it just provides some additional levels of security that these projects are being maintained in a proper manner and that they're serving the workforce as intended. So with that, I know we're on a short time frame. I'll turn it over to Gavin.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. We're really excited for this slide. We were ecstatic when this award came out. It just shows that the state of Kansas is excited for housing to get developed here in Riley County. So I think it's important to acknowledge on this slide who our target market is and housing, kind of the housing specs that we're looking to provide to the county. So target market's the most important. I think there's been several housing studies now. I know the city of Manhattan did one several years ago that's very comprehensive. We need houses in all ranges. So it's not just like one tiny sliver that we're missing out on. We need stuff from 60% AMI all the way up to 120% AMI. So this project, we acknowledge, isn't going to solve every housing problem. There's always going to be some shortages somewhere. But what we decided that we wanted to tackle first was this target market, the young families seeking homeownership, married couples who qualify for workforce housing, and then empty nesters who are maybe in a larger home than a 5 or a 4 bedroom that they've owned for 20 or 30 years and are ready to downsize. That also will then unlock that home that they're moving out of for another couple. So you'll notice a common theme. This is what I would consider like a dual income home is what we're looking at. 2 people working in the home is what we're looking for. So housing specifications, this home price that we're looking to meet is about $315,000. It's about a 1,500 square foot home, which is all of our units are going to be 3 bed, 2 bath, attached 2-car garage on these little kitten projects as well. So these are truly homes for families to live in. Again, as we dig into as Tyler and I were doing some market research, there's quite a bit of product actually out in the market that are 1 or 2 bedroom condominiums in that $250,000 to $275,000 range. But that's not really conducive for a family. That's not conducive for a young family that's maybe has 1 or 2 children. They want to start their home to get into. This product we feel really meets that need. A big question that then is asked is, well, is $315,000 affordable? Does that truly fit the affordability model that I'm going after? And I think this slide does a good job of breaking down what that actually looks like in real numbers. And then the next few slides will explain that, yes, it is actually affordable for the target market we're looking for. It won't be affordable for every single person, but for the target market that we're after, it will do a great job. So if the purchase price is $315,000, we have some assumptions here. You make a 10% down payment and you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Now the rate is 6.6%. That's obviously fluctuating every day, but that's market as of right now. What that looks like in real dollars is a mortgage payment of about $1,800, taxes and insurance of about $583 for a total housing payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance of about a little under $2,400. Now, the debt to income goal is less than 30%. My entire background is banking. As a banker, we always kept DTI under 43%. So the higher the number, that means the more dollars of an individual is going towards debt payments. So you want to lower debt to income. If you had a DTI under 30% on housing, what that told you was there's a lot of wiggle room there where they could have a student loan payment, they could have a car payment, and they could still be able to afford to live. So we really try to target that under 30% DTI that allows for a home to be affordable. So what that means in dollars is an annual income, a household income, not an individual income, but a household income would need to be $95,000. So again, in real terms, what that looks like, we put some examples here to really break this down and show you that, yes, this is an affordable home for our target market in the workforce range. The first scenario is a Riley County Police Department officer and a USD 383 teacher. These are actual salaries that I pulled from public information. You can see that between the RCPD officer and the teacher salary, the combined household income is about $104,000. Housing costs that we just went over are about $2,400, showing that DTI comes in at 27. A second example would be an RN and an airport maintenance tech. again, these are figures that we found. These are figures that are out there in the community. And you can research these. Combined income of about $125,000. You can see DTI under 23%. We added a few more just to kind of really break this down and kind of highlight. This is workforce. These industries, these occupations in our community, whether it be an LPN, a police officer, a USD 383 teacher, or an airport maintenance tech. I mean, this is the backbone of our community. This is who we're trying to provide housing for with this project. You can see that all of these scenarios, we fall with a DTI, in some cases, well under 30%. Another concern that we want to make sure we highlight is, what does it look like from Riley County's perspective on a cost benefit analysis? Because there is a component of this project that's not going to hit the tax rolls immediately. 32 of these homes won't hit. And it is an incremental cost, and we recognize that incremental cost to the county. If a home isn't going to pay for itself immediately, you still have to provide ambulance service to that household. You still have to provide police department. So we picked out the biggest two line items for RCPD and tried to figure out what that incremental cost would be. What does it cost to add a new house to Riley County? What's that true cost if there's not tax revenue to offset that? This slide, I'm going to have to slide over slightly, but you can see that per the 2024 budget, the ambulance service to all citizens for Riley County is about 5.8 million. RCPD services, Riley County's portion is about 5.7. Per the 2023 census data, and I know these are a lot of numbers, but I hope you guys can stick with me here, is about just under 31,000 households. So what we figured is that the incremental cost to a Riley County per home is about $375 per household. We certainly acknowledge there's other costs. We're not going to get every penny detailed in, but we think this gives you a good representation of what that cost looks like to Riley County, and what we're trying to provide. So you can see that adding 44 new homes to Riley County is going to cost the county in these services about $16,000. But please remember that there is 12 infill homes that we're adding. They're going to hit the tax rolls immediately. Using the county website, we can see that that's going to provide about $17,000 directly to Riley County in tax revenue. The whole point of this slide is to show that this project has a small net surplus. And again, there's some dollars that may not be exact, because there's some things like you guys pay for elections. That's not listed here. But the point of this is to show that we aren't subsidizing this project because there's no tax dollars coming in. It's really a net neutral to the county. A couple things the analysis doesn't consider is that obviously the added value of the 40 workforce homes, the long-term tax revenue when all 44 are on the tax rolls, or the sales tax. There's going to be an immediate injection of about $50,000 in sales to Riley County just from purchasing materials. So a couple of things. I'm not going to read all these slides, but I think it's just important to highlight a few of this particular RHID. Tyler already mentioned there's no public infrastructure that's going to need to be added. Roads, sewer lines, water lines, they're already there. This is an infill project, so there's not a lot of incremental costs there. No loss of current tax dollars. So one thing that I think is important to mention as well is the Stony Brook townhomes where Little Kitten is, as well as the house that near the park. Both of those property tax values have been declining for years. So those are going down. By actually issuing this RHID, we freeze that value. So instead of having a declining asset that continues to bring in less revenue to the county, we're freezing that for a period of time, which is actually better than nothing. And then obviously when the RHID burns off, the tax revenues will certainly go way up. Number three, I think, might be the most important and maybe a misunderstood piece of this RHID. Some always consider it a subsidy, but the reality is that without this RHID, this project doesn't move forward. So there would be no tax dollars. The RHID is simply a self-funded tool. These homes that get built are funding themselves with a portion of the tax revenue. Number four, no windfall for anyone. One thing Tyler already mentioned, that the state of Kansas is going to be monitoring these. But another piece that's important to realize is if somebody buys this home and in 5 years they sell it, it's not like they're going to be able to sell this for some massive market rate price. This is an important concept, is the cost to build this home may be $350,000, but the market's only going to support a purchase price of $325,000 or $315,000, excuse me. We're bringing that cost to market, not under market. We're not trying to deliver homes that are selling for under market rate. We're trying to bring the cost of a home to market rate. So when someone goes to sell this home in 3, 5, 7 years down the road, they're selling that home at market rate. There's not some big windfall they're going to get because we're selling them originally at market rate. And finally, it's just investing in the future. I mean, these homes, you're going to get some tax revenue immediately, but in 15 years, you're going to get a big influx of tax revenue. So think of this as almost a, saving for the future type of a project. Finally, is the community support. I think this slide is one of the most important slides on this program. I mean, the city of Manhattan has approved the initial phase of the RHID. We're currently working with them on a developer agreement. USD 383, we've met with Eric Reed, we've met with the facilities and growth team. They've written a letter of support for this project. We've gone through this project in detail. They are supportive of this project. K-State University, Kansas Department of Commerce has already greenlit this project. Kansas Housing Resources Corporation was the entity that awarded us the state funding. WTC, Meadowlark, Manco Window Systems. These are some of the biggest employers that we have. Most of our employees live in Riley or Pottawatomie County, but these employers are some of the backbones of our community. They're all very supportive of this project. And obviously the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce as well. They've been a big supporter and we want to thank them for all their work. So finally, where is this project today? Currently, we're working with the city of Manhattan on a detailed development plan. We're also getting a financial analysis done by a third party by the name of Stephen Roth down in Wichita, Kansas. He's done this for the city of Manhattan a lot. So he's going to do a financial analysis and a financial impact study of this particular project. That's currently getting worked on. We're expected to present this project to the city commission sometime in May. Once that's been presented in May and hopefully approved, the next step would be sending this to Riley County and USD 383 to acknowledge that the city has approved the RHID and notifying you guys of the public hearing. Assuming there's no negative impact taken by Riley County within their 30-day review period, then obviously a copy of the ordinance, the legal description, land use, map indicating the boundaries and the district will be mailed to the county clerk. So that's expected to be done in August of 25. So that's kind of the timeline where we're at now. This is why we wanted to come here today to get in front of this, to give you guys plenty of time to learn about the project, for us to answer questions and have a good dialogue. So that's the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Well, first off, the map showing those things is illegible. And they're trying to make the numbers of houses and change as you go through, and I'm not following them. Because you say you got 40 market and 4 or 40 some and 4 of another, but there's never 4 in any one of these projects, or some of these projects half and half.
So the 40, basically I'll tell you how I can break this down for you. The homes up by Stony Brook, there's 26 duplexes that'll be located there. That's going to be the first RHID that the county looks at. So 26 homes, all are RHID eligible, will be located right there at LK Town, the LK project, which that's where 26 will be, all RHID. The house by the property by the park, there's going to be 6 townhomes located there. Those will all be RHID eligible. Those will all be workforce. So there's 32 homes between those two sites, all RHID, all workforce. Finally is the Lee Mill Village site. There's 12 homes there. None of those will be RHID eligible. Those are city-owned lots, not in the tax rolls currently. 8 of those will be workforce housing. 4 of those will be market rate homes. So that's
What's the difference between workforce and market rate?
Yeah,
I thought your selling point was these are all you're selling at market rate.
They are selling at market rate. So some will fall within market rate that are also workforce. So like a $315,000 home is a market rate home. What that means is that's the maximum you can sell it for in the community that the market will pay. So, you're building a home, $315,000, that's market rate. You're selling at a market rate. That also falls within the workforce housing category. So you have to hit a certain AMI to fall within workforce. Now, it gets a little confusing because the state of Kansas says a home that is under 150% of the area median income, the AMI, is workforce. The city of Manhattan is more conservative. They say, no, we want to back that down. We say that anything that's within 120% of AMI falls within workforce housing. So we're proud to say that all of our homes are below that 120%. So we're taking an even more conservative approach and saying that all of our homes are even below that 120% AMI.
Sorry, just to add a little bit of clarification there too. So for the Lee Mill site, with the 4 market rate, That's a really challenging site. Like I said, we've been working with the city since 2023. The 4 that we've kind of reserved as the non-workforce, they have a site that is more conducive for some walkouts. So while all of our workforce stuff is 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, a good space for a family, the 4 that are non-workforce will probably be closer to 3, maybe even 3,500 square feet. So you're getting more of a, you know, a larger thing like Colbert Hills style home, which again, those are not going to be RHID. Those are not within the workforce range. They're a little bit bigger, but some of that was just due to the topography of that site. And I'd be happy to meet with, or, you know, we would be happy to meet with any of you guys at the site. And we've met with a lot of the city commissioners at the site, just explaining some of that. It's easier to see when you're out there.
But you're saying one of the Lee Mills isn't RHID, but we have to approve all 3.
No.
That's what, at some point in here, you said it's all or nothing for all of them.
Yeah, so this will come to you sequentially, Greg. That's a great question. Again, this is a scattered site, so we're doing a lot here, and I appreciate you sticking with us. So you will approve there's 2 RHIDs. You'll approve those separately. You're going to look at one, and then you'll look at a separate one.
Each 3 of these are separate.
You will never have to do anything with the Lee Mill Village site. That is, we just simply wanted to show you the entire project because we think it's important, because that Lee Mill Village, those homes are coming on your tax rolls immediately.
And it's one project, to further clarify, it's one project for the state. So for the state funding that we received, they look at it as one project. But we're only coming to you for the 2 different sites for RHID.
Okay.
And the first one that you'll look at, Greg, is the top map there, the top bubble. It'll be the Little Kitten site. There'll be 26 duplexes there, and those will all fall within the workforce housing range, and that's going to be a 26 unit RHID. And if I scroll down, I'll show you how this comes to be. So this Little Kitten Flats here, this is the first component that you'll look at. So when I talked about the timeline, what you'll see in at the city commission in May, and then later, that'll just be that first component.
I have something on the Little Kitten project. I used to live up there and walk the sidewalks. I didn't realize there were any kinds of, or was any kind of infrastructure there, like plumbing or electrical. That's not there, I don't think. But plus there's a traffic situation there. Who's going to pay to upgrade the streets there? Because that'll put a huge impact on that street.
That's a great question. So we actually worked with the original plat. So those were originally platted for 26. So that site is currently zoned and platted for that. So it's got the curb cuts already planned, the streets already rated for those 26 homes. The water is on the right side of the street, the sewer is not, so we'll end up sleeving. But we've talked to Larson Construction, and we'll be able to do all that without tearing up the road, without adding any traffic congestion during construction. So, but it's all the infrastructure and roads are currently rated for those 26 homes.
Really, that's that just amazes me, because the 2-lane up there that, you know, runs along Stony Brook, you know, that whole area is, you know, it goes into Colbert Hills and.
Right. Yeah, if you look just a little bit.
It needs some more.
Sure, if you look just a little bit north where those duplexes are, just on the north side, it'll be kind of similar to that. So that's how it was all platted.
And the nice thing is we have 2 car garages on all those sites as well with driveways. So that should also keep any, you know, street parking to a minimum.
Yeah, because when people park there along the street, which happens now with the ones close to Kimball, you can hardly get around. There's a lot of.
And also, I thought, and again, some of these rental, I thought.
There is, yep, there's going to be, we're breaking it down into 2 pieces. So the workforce, again, we have some things going on here. There's 40 homes. There'll be 28 that are for sale, and there'll be 12 that are for rent. And there's a reason for that. The state wants to see developers provide both products, because there is such a housing. They say not everybody can afford to buy. Some people need to rent. And so there'll be a rental component and there'll be a for purchase component.
You know, as landlords were going broke, that they need subsidized.
Yeah, and to clarify that, so one of my main business here is Frontier Property Management. And so we constantly work with renters to place them in rental properties. And when people hear rental in this community, everyone thinks college, apartments and stuff like that. what we're consistently having is people coming to us that are trying to relocate to this community that are what we call renters by choice. So these are people that are, in the workforce range that we talked about. They're not college students. They're not, necessarily blue collar or service-based workers. They're people that are coming here, decent paying jobs, and they want to rent. They want to rent in this community, and we don't have that product available for that home. So this goal and what the state's option or what the state's objective is to try to help provide housing for those households that want to have a single family or a duplex rental product. So it's not a direct subsidy for a landlord. It's trying to provide housing that will be attractive for workforce people to help our employers in this community.
So you're going to control the rental properties and which ones are rental and which ones are for sale throughout this whole project?
That's right. Yep. And the state will be, so we'll actually report back to the state. So Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, they oversee all of that. I think they've got probably, I don't know, it's a lot across the state that they monitor. So we will provide that reporting back to them and that they verify. We have to verify that every household that we place in one of these rental units is a workforce household. So it's not a game day buyer or second home person. Like we have to qualify that they are in the workforce here in Riley County. And then same thing on the for sale. We have to actually verify that it's that the incomes fall within that range. And again, that it's not somebody buying it for a game day home or for a second house.
And the year, you said, because I didn't see anything in there, but you said it's 50, I was asking 50 years, the
I was wondering
RHID.
that too.
The RHID, how many years?
How many years? Yeah. So the Little Kitten, if you look at the left there, the Little Kitten project, it's approximately 15 years is what that takes. The maximum in the state's 25. We didn't need that. We've really whittled it down almost a half of what the state max is. So that's 15. Park Townhomes is about 17 and a half is where that is. So those dollar amounts that you see there, again, it's another misnomer with RHID. That's why we put it in the parentheses. It kind of shows you what the approximate total is per year. So I mean, there's a real time value of money piece that's in there. Sometimes people say, oh, you're getting 1.95 million over a long period of time. So.
But you also said that 1.8 from the state, you just got that. So how, if you hadn't figured that in already, how does that, you just got it.
We had,
Why
so
isn't that in there?
we had, so again, Gavin and I've talked a lot, this is kind of like threading a needle. This has been a really, really difficult project to try to layer all these different pieces in. We're both passionate about workforce housing and infill development here in Manhattan, so we're happy to do the work. But yeah, if you go look at our preliminary applications that we submitted to the city of Manhattan for the initial RHID discussion, we had accounted for those funds, assuming and hoping that we would be successful. We felt really good about the application that we submitted to the state for those funds that were just awarded. We had really strong community support, as Gavin just mentioned. So we had already accounted for those in our funding sources. If we had not received those funds, we were going to have to go back to city and either request some local workforce dollars or request to reapply for those funds, because frankly, this project is just not possible without, trying to layer all of these different things in.
And my understanding though, the people will still pay a property tax amount, the property tax amounts, who will have it, they'll be appraised and taxed, whatever they are, but those will go to you, the developers.
The increment for the time period would flow back to the development entity, yes. So you would still get the base that you're receiving today.
Which on empty lots is nothing.
But on the park project, it would be, again, and on those empty lots and the park project, those property values are declining. So by freezing these things, you're actually preserving more income than I think 7
I
years.
don't think empty lots are going down in value.
No, they have. So when we did the analysis, it was interesting for me too, but and I can send that to you, but they've actually declined in value, I think, because they've been listed. So the sellers had them on the open market and no one has been buying them. So they've actually been decreasing in value. The other thing, and I hear from Rich, but the other thing I'd like to clarify too is that just don't lose sight of those 12 Lee Mill Village sites. So those sites would come on immediately. That's again why we've really tried to layer this project, and it makes it difficult to explain because it is complex, but we tried to really come in here and say, what is the minimum amount of resources and funding that we need in order to make this development viable and make it affordable to the workforce?
So these two projects, you've got the money from the state, so these two projects will absolutely not go forward without the RHID, even though you're getting the state funding. absolutely will not.
That's right. We can't pencil these out to where they can fit the state's income guidelines without the RHID as well.
So you didn't know at the time when you applied to the city whether you were gonna get the state money, correct?
That's right.
So had the RHID been passed and you not gotten those, the building wouldn't have gone forward.
We would have had to have, again, gone back to the city for workforce housing. We know there's a workforce housing dollars pot there. And these KHRC funds, this isn't our first time through this process. We've been awarded on several other jobs, not in this community, but in other communities. So we're instantly kind of understand how this project worked. There's been a lot of conversation that they wanted to see a Manhattan and a Riley County project go forward.
Understand, but my question is, would it have happened or not?
Not without, we need both of these pieces. So if we would have been awarded the RHID, we would have needed to apply to KHRC again, or gone to the city and said, hey, there's some workforce housing dollars here's a gap here. It's really difficult, Rich. It's a good question, but
Because that's actually quite a bit of money you're getting from the state on those.
yeah, for the MIH grant, it's $650,000. Then there's some KHITC. So that's not, you don't actually get that full amount. You have to liquidate those. There's some nuance to that,
Mhm.
but that's the total credit value. Then you go liquidate those things and you take a haircut. So, but that is the amount.
And we did have those conversations. That's a good question, Rich, but we did have those conversations with the city commission, saying if the RHID is approved and the KHRC funding is not, we need to come back to the city and request that we reapply to KHRC to try to go secure those funds.
And it's hard. All these things have they all have different deadlines. They all have different application times. So it's not like you can say, well, you need to go get one and then you can go get the other. And then you can go, it doesn't really work like that. Unfortunately, it'd be great if it is. You actually have to kind of say, okay, we're going to plan on this and try to communicate with as many people as you can. And as Tyler said, thread the needle. The applications for KHRC were due in November. We had a lot of conversations with the city about this RHID, but it's trying to piece this all together.
And that's exactly right. Some of this has been a little eye-opening for us too, and that, this has been a very, very difficult, very, very complex to try to advance. And so as we step back and look, it's no wonder that, a lot of workforce housing is happening in Pot County and we're not actually adding workforce housing here in Manhattan, here in Riley County. So we're excited to be able to do that, but it has definitely taken a big lift to be able to get those resources in place to be able to deliver workforce housing here in Riley County.
I just think what a house costs is what's the market rate is. I mean, you say it's two different numbers, but what a house costs, you're saying that's what they won't be selling for a different rate later. But these aren't going to be the only houses built for the next 20 years. Other people are going to build houses without a subsidy and they'll sell them for that price. So that's what those values are going to be. That values are going to go up.
That's a great comment, Greg, and that's why nothing's getting built. That's exactly why nothing in this price range is getting built, because you can't do it for that. So when you say what a house costs to build is what it's worth, I mean, I guess I would say it's not. That's why there's no building getting done. There's no 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 homes that are getting built for this $315,000. That's why if you go look at, Potawatomi County, maybe out in the country where you have to add services, here's one thing I also didn't mention that I want to make sure I add. None of these sites, none of these homes have specials. That's another very important piece to this from affordability that you're not seeing here. But, you're seeing a single family home right now. They go on the market at usually $340,000, $350,000 is what a 1,500 square foot home is, plus specials on top of that. So, I mean, yeah, you're right in the sense that, bring this down to the market only gets approximately. I mean, we've done a lot of research about $315,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house. I mean, if we wanted to build this and it cost us $375,000, we wouldn't be able to sell them. They would just sit on the market because the value is not there.
And these are they're all slab homes, so is that correct? Except the ones you're talking about with the walkouts.
That's right. Yep.
So you say they can't be built, so how are they doing it in Pot County? What is attributing to the cost difference between here and a quarter mile that way?
Yeah, I would
Specifically, I mean,
yeah,
you guys look at it, so specifically, what is it? Is it the land cost? Is it the infrastructure cost? Certainly
for infill stuff, land cost is a huge component of this. These lots aren't cheap. Infrastructure is there, but that gets recognized in the specials. That's one thing that's not mentioned on any of these things, that you have $2,000, $3,000, sometimes $4,000 a year in specials on some of those new constructions out in Pot County. We don't have any of that. There's no special. So that's a piece of this affordability that we have. The other thing is there's not much inventory out there that's getting built for 350. If you go, or 315 or less, if you look at the asking price on the vast majority of that is 339, 349, 359. So keeping that cost component as low as it is.
Understand, but you just said they were doing it in Pot County. That's why it's not getting built here, but they are doing it in Pot County. And so that's, I wanted to know, how are they doing it?
Yeah, I think a lot of
Or
that.
they are not doing it.
A lot
Are they
of that
doing
is
it?
attributable to land cost, acquisition cost. Here in the city of Manhattan, we have a very rigorous permitting process, a very rigorous inspection process. So I think apples to apples, the quality of construction happening here in Manhattan is probably a better level, but that does cost more. But you have a variety of factors, including the acquisition cost, including the utility hookup cost, including the permit cost, that are all relevant here in Manhattan and not relevant out in Pot County.
There's a quality of life component too, Rich. I mean, I think for us, why we're so passionate about Phil, when people live in these sites, they get a walk. And there's a lot of embedded costs that we don't even see, where when you live by City Park or you live by Stony Brook, you can walk to a restaurant, you can walk to your work, you can walk to the place you go. You don't need as much parking. There's not as many strain on services versus when you're building out, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles out off of Green Valley, Excel road. There's a lot of costs that go into that. There's a lot of wear and tear on Highway 24. There's a lot of extra police departments and fire departments that get built. There's a lot of cost and a lot of extra parking that's needed in these communities. So if we can provide infill housing, the upfront cost can be a little bit more, but I think the value to the community members, to the citizens, to these owners is pretty substantial.
I have no question.
Well, we were happy to meet with anybody after this, or if you have questions, feel free to email us or call us, or again, we can come back if you have some additional questions, or again, we can meet any other time. I'm happy to discuss.
And you're talking about the existing taxes on those lots and Little Kit pay $323.
Yeah,
That's what we're frozen at.
that's what you're
For
frozen.
15
Well,
years.
they've been empty lots since the dawn of time. I mean, they've been undeveloped for a long time for that reason. So you are frozen at a lower amount, but it's been a lower amount for decades and decades because development just isn't happening there.
Oh, that's the other, you're saying we have to like 315, but how come the median sales price for a house last year in Miley County was 250? So there are houses available. They're not brand new, but everybody doesn't have to have a brand new
Sure,
house.
and I completely agree with that point. I think when you start looking at median sale prices, taking in houses that maybe are barely habitable, what we're doing is providing energy efficient.
$250,000 are barely habitable.
I'm just saying, if you look at.
Mine's
if
a lot
that's-
less than that.
If
I
that's
think
the
it's
average,
habitable.
sure, if that's the average though, you're taking in a broad range of houses. So what we're trying to do and what the state wants to see is us provide new construction, energy efficient, modern houses, which again, we think that a large amount of the population, that's what they want. That's what the customer wants. That's what the workforce wants to see.
And I think, yeah, averages can kind of skew things. If a couple homes sell for $60,000 or
It's not average.
$75,000.
It's not average, it's median. That's the middle one. Because there's half of them are above and half of them are below. The average is higher than that because of the $600,000, $700,000 house.
And we'd be happy to get you some data on new construction. So I think when you start looking at medians or averages and you don't take new construction into account, like that becomes a very difficult number to gauge. But if you'd like to see some new construction data and where that fits, we'd be happy to do that.
Then
I'm gonna make one suggestion. In the future, you need to schedule more than 15 minutes
Yeah.
for these. Because it's gonna draw a conversation. When I saw that in the agenda, I kind of figured
Yeah.
that.
I
It's
figured
not
that
fair
as
to the
well
people
with,
making the presentation.
I figured that as well with this one, but these young men were excited to get before you to
Sure.
No, and I appreciate
present the
it, but
information, and I know this commission has been excited to learn more, and so this was
Yeah.
just a start. One thing I really like is the timeline presentation, because it shows them we have more time for this dialogue, so if you want to ask them back, or if they want to come back, you know, we have time to have those discussions. So I think that's very beneficial.
I would just naturally say in the future, schedule these for at least a half an hour, please.
We wanted to, the timeline on the agenda for, we looked way out and it don't get any better for a while.
And we appreciate your time. We know this is.
No,
we
you're
squeezed this
good.
in, so
You're
thank
good.
you.
Appreciate your time, Gavin.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Anna, you got.
You got a Cliff Notes version?
Fortunately,
Might start with your travel request.
no.
Where are we at?
Morning, Commissioners. Anna Burson, Raleigh County Appraiser. I will try to make this as fast as I can, but I've got kind of a packed. I've got kind of a
Needs, that's fine.
packed presentation myself. So here with our monthly staff update, let me zoom out this a little, make this more viewable. There we go. So personal property, also what we're referring more to as our appraisal support team. They're processing changes and setting values for the renditions that were returned from the property owners. They're also setting values on property with no changes, personal property, those that did not return those renditions. They're assisting with updating and managing our digital process for the various residential phases. And we're preparing for hearings and planning for managing workflows for requests, addressing taxpayers' concerns related to the most recent letters that went out regarding the delinquent taxes and the motion for the reviver. That did present some challenges, but we did work through those things, beginning preparations for personal property notice of values. Agricultural use, there's 273 ag properties that are due for annual reinspection this year. Our ag appraisers working through sales of ag land as they're received and verifying agricultural use on those properties that failed to return their maps from last year. On residential, we have 2,161 properties and 196 vacant properties that are due for their annual reinspection this year. There's been 64 residential sales to date with a median sale price of $245,000 and an average sale price of $266,321. Currently, that sales ratio for unvalidated sales is right at that 98%. And sales will remain unvalidated until after we certify in June. There's 22 new permits for 2025 so far, and there's 286 permit rechecks from last year's inspections. Staff are currently wrapping up inspections of properties that sold towards the end of last year and beginning preparations for our annual reinspection. On the commercial side, there's 353 commercial and exempt properties that are due for a reinspection. They've begun those inspections. There's 5 commercial sales to date. And the commercial team assisted in various phases of the residential to wrap out 2024. We're preparing for upcoming informal appeals as well as BOTA hearings. Here is our updated Board of Tax Appeal list. The only thing to note is we have one additional from 2024 that's going on to the Board of Tax Appeals. Don't yet have that docketed, but that's one of the changes. In addition, scheduling, there's a couple date changes, but other than that, there's no other changes to that list. From the last staff update, I felt it was valuable and important information for you guys to have regarding the pending exemption applications at the Board of Tax Appeals. Especially right now, as we're getting ready to get into our budgeting timeframe, it's really important to know what's potentially coming off. I can't take it off the tax roll and stay on until the Board of Tax Appeals grants those exemptions. And so the two highlighted, based on all of that data I put together and I've shared in the last week, and that's in this presentation, these figures are coming off. And so the 8.4 million from 23, 8.8 million from 24, and 8.3 million from 25 on the Browning Rec Center, that's coming off. In addition to that, we received the BOTA order on the Eisenhower Rec Center as well. So that will be coming before you on Monday. So that's over 16 million that was previously showing as, you know, value that we were gonna have tax base off of that we are not.
Here's my frustration with that now. They're charging. They're gonna be charging for usage.
And
Does that change it?
that information, they had some fee structures in their original application. And most rec centers across the state charge some level of fees for the recreation centers. They're not completely free and they are tax exempt. And so I can't speak to what the Board of Tax Appeals says is reasonable or not reasonable, but in their application for exemption, there was already some free fee structure information in there.
Well, I'm sorry, but the frustrating part about that is you have for-profit recreation centers that are paying property tax. They charge fees too, and hence the argument that we have when government competition comes into play with public facilities. And it's a hard argument, at least from my perspective, to say that it's wrong, that they're not wrong for trying to fight that. And that's exactly where we're at.
And
I'm not blaming you. It's not your fault. I'm just making the point be known that this is the reason why we're having this argument, and the fair thing to do is either government entities that are charging the fees and having those services and having that infrastructure should pay either the fair amount of tax or stay out of that business.
And it's gonna come down to legislation, John. to be
I
honest
understand
with
that,
you.
and I've already discussed that.
Because the legislation is loosely enough written that
But
it
the
will
problem
allow.
with that is basically what they're saying is that the private entities then shouldn't have to pay taxes too, which comes back and hurts us instead of the other way around.
I understand 100%, and that's the piece that I've tried to share. All I can do is provide the information.
I'm just
to the
venting,
Board
it's
of
a
Tax
soapbox, but
Appeals.
I'm just saying, on top of it, it's not really helping us along the way, and once again, here we are.
Commissioner, if I could make some additional comment on that, right? Anna and I looked at this, right? We scrutinized it, right? And Anna, let's just say that there was a healthy review, right? And as someone that inherited the scars there's been a legislative push for, I want to say 25 years.
Well, and it's coming from one entity, and we all know what that entity is.
We do.
but-
And my mother was the property tax attorney for Sedgwick County, right? And the constant refrain was a certain gymnasium, I don't know, a certain provider is not able to compete with the YMCA. Right? I didn't know that there was a competition with the YMCA, but there was. And that was the constant refrain at that time. And then we went back and looked at the case law. I did. And I said, look, based off of the case law, even though there is a fee structure, right? I don't know that we have justification for making a strong recommendation and not. Now, that was prior to them, Manhattan making a wholesale change to their fee structure. But I still don't know that's a voted decision.
I don't think that's happened just yet, but it's going to, so it may not affect where we're at right now. But it's certainly damn sure gonna affect the way it's moving forward. And to be honest with you, I agree with the private entities. We shouldn't be in the same business competing against each other where one's paying property tax and one's not paying property tax, but providing the same service.
Yeah,
And paying a fee for it, whether it's $60 a month or $5 a month, there's still a fee involved.
And
So the structure of the argument is still the same.
And I want to be abundantly clear, right? I'm not saying that Manhattan shouldn't have to pay taxes for it, right? What I am saying is I wanted to defend the actions of our county appraiser. Because
Well, sure, and I'm
do you know
not-
what I mean? And
I'm not arguing that from
Yeah.
that perspective. I'm just arguing that the whole concept in general is wrong.
not sure I
So
disagree. with
I
that.
just,
So in addition, just to kind of share some also added information to this list is yesterday I received another exemption application as it pertains to the Kimball property over in the Edge District. It was an IRB exemption that was granted. And so there's an additional 15,203,000 that will be pending BOTA from these figures that were presented. And
Where is that?
that it's
The
the
new,
1960.
the new.
I think it's 1960,
Oh.
1690, no, it's
The
19.
whole building.
1960.
It's,
Right, all that.
Yeah.
I think it's 1960.
That's just on the RIB. That's not on the industrial revenue bond that was issued for it. That's not the.
Yeah, it's 1960 Kimball Avenue, so, and so that's, I believe it was a period of 5 years. I have to look at it. I have to go through that application before submitting it to BOTA. It's gonna take a few minutes, or a few days, excuse me. It's gonna take a few days to process that application, but it will go on to the Board of Tax Appeals, but ultimately it seems fairly black and white. So just keeping you informed of additional,
Oh, that's two IRBs.
mhm. Yeah, and other projects, press releases, trend publications, compliance deadlines, website updates, position descriptions, requests for refills. It's been a very, very busy last month. Presentation at the intergovernmental luncheon on valuation. Came in interview within reason, lots of training, process updates and hearing preparation. And so here is the average sale price, by year, for the last, since 1986. So you can clearly see that climb. As of last year's for 2024, 275,000 was the average sale price. And then regarding the total valuation, this was all before all those exemptions came in. So again, it looked like 2.79% increase in appraised value overall. Well, when you start taking out millions and millions, that's going to change. But you can see that the total valuation appraised overall value, residential, exempt property and commercial are the biggest portion of the appraised value. This is just that preliminary percent change over 2024. And so I'm not gonna dig into that. You guys can see those numbers. And this is the biggest one, which is the assessed valuation. And so you can see where the actual tax dollars come from. 69.7% of the assessed valuation is from residential. 23.83% of the assessed valuation total is from commercial. 3.27 farm sites, 2.48 ag land. And then the smaller percentages are your vacants and your not-for-profits and other. And so again, those percentages are gonna shift as we take things off the tax roll and put things back on, but this is why
You put
property
things
owners-
back on here? Really?
when they sell, just like that big property that once it sells, it'll become taxable.
Okay.
At least for a period of time.
It's probably still gonna be.
So Riley County's 2025% change summary. 75% of the residential properties are going up 6% or less. As a whole, all of Riley County property valuations, 75%, 6% or less. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all gonna fall within that. Some are gonna go up potentially more, and then obviously there's quite a bit that's going up less than that. Agricultural land has definitely saw a decrease this year. And so this is just that quick summary. You've seen it before. I just wanted to put it out there. The appeals process, the biggest thing I'm gonna point out from this slide is per Kansas statute, property owners have an opportunity to appeal once per tax year. And so right now we're in that informal time frame, and I encourage property owners, if you have questions about their value or property, to go ahead and request the appeal.
I don't know if it's just me or not, but I've had 4 or 5 people already reach out on that one. And,
Have an appeal.
well, not how to appeal, but just
Valuation
the
increase.
valuation increase in general, and that's what I'm telling them, appeal, because you have that. You have that option.
Might want to help.
I've got several people that just went up 8-10% and they're not happy, so.
Depends on the area where they were located, and so that's possible. Some areas went up 8 to 10%. Some
These are all
may have gone
senior.
down a little bit. I can't speak to it
I
without
know.
looking at it, but I'll definitely happily sit down with them and look at the properties.
That's why we have the process.
Exactly, that's what I pointed out.
Educational.
Yeah, I'd get one, an appeal.
Yeah.
If you don't like.
I'm just taking the opportunity to agree with that process.
You've been in DC too long.
I know.
Is there any questions
Someone
on
else say that
the
too.
staff report at this time? Or are we good?
The only thing,
Nothing.
and this one's the average sale
Thanks for
price.
pointing that out,
median-
I'll change.
Median
Median,
sale price is lower.
Yes,
You are
yes.
correct.
I
yes.
mentioned that because the 600,000 ones.
Yeah,
Near that.
yeah.
definitely.
And so, I mean, he wasn't wrong. We could run some data for you if you wanted to know on the new home construction sale prices.
I did-
That's
I did-
not,
I
Actually,
didn't
that
get
would
that
be
while I was
good.
there. Looked at Valleywood. The houses he's built out there, they're slightly smaller, they're 1,300 square foot, 3 bedrooms, selling for 200 and 210. So it is possible.
Well, here's another question too. Does everything require a 2-car garage, which adds to the cost? I mean, if you're just talking basic, I mean, you can go
Well,
park your car
isn't that
underneath an overhead or a car wash when it hails or.
Well,
vacate
yeah.
I
the
think on
area.
those, they were just referring to the upper end on Kitten Creek, the
Well, sure.
upper end. I don't
Yeah.
think it was applied to all of those RHID,
Right.
but no. And they're not wrong. I don't agree with it neither, but everyone expects it to walk in and look brand new. It's not how I grew up for sure, but
Yeah.
that's what everyone expects.
Then you're gonna have to pay for it. There's not an offset. You're not gonna build something for $350,000 and pay $150,000 for it. That's. There's no pot at the end of the rainbow, people. Sorry.
Are we ready for my last?
Yeah.
piece?
Oh, you're still here?
Maybe I
You
should
really
just go
done
now.
it. You really done it this morning. No, you're good. You're good.
Probably
You're
not
good.
very good idea. I was a little
Yeah,
nervous, not gonna
yeah.
lie.
You had a good lead in today, didn't you?
That was great.
Oh, we're talking budget next. Oh, great.
Okay.
So the last piece that I have for you.
Yeah.
The last piece I have for you is the request for out-of-state travel to the 2025 IWO conference. I'm requesting permission for Steve and myself to attend the 2025 IWO conference and workshops in Orlando, Florida, September 20th through the 25th. This annual conference is a lot of education. They meet our education requirements for our designations through IWO. So it's continuing ed that counts. Lots, like I said, demonstrations on process and procedures around the world. It provides a forum for discussion on leadership from leadership and colleagues, access to vendors, appraisal products and services, and some of the latest tech. And so there's no fiscal impact as this is already budgeted from our 2025 budget. And I would recommend approval for the out-of-state travel request to the conference for myself and Steve. That information.
Problem.
I can go ahead and then make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel request to the IAAO conference in Orlando, Florida for Steve Shirley and Hannah Burson.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the outstate travel request for the IAAO conference in Orlando for Steve Shirley and Anna Burson. All in favor?
Thank you, commissioners.
Chair, please sign.
You know, Steve.
I need
They
to
don't-
quit
they don't
for it,
have them in
guys.
January.
Yeah, they don't have them in January in Bismarck, North Dakota or Anchorage, Alaska.
Get back at you.
Okay.
Denver last year and Salt Lake City the year before.
Sorry, we've had some of our conferences in Orlando. But apparently it has the largest conference center in the country.
Yeah, I've never been, so I really don't.
Well, there was an argument about that like 2 years ago or something. Vegas was arguing about that and apparently it is Orlando. Interesting to know.
Well, Vegas probably won't let that last too long.
True. But I think the thing with Vegas though is they've got like many.
Thank you.
They got
lot,
large
yeah, they got a
conference,
lot.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Vegas is Vegas.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
The 70s again on Monday.
I saw 78.
I saw that for like Tuesday. Yeah. Kansas.
It's crazy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer, here to present this morning the 2026 budget calendar and baseline. So I gave you a background of the last 10 years and what the budget baseline has been. The past few years, it's you guys have kept it relatively the same. asking that all budgets requested be for only needs and departments be aware of current economic conditions and the tax sentiment. Last year, you also requested, that appropriations follow that same request and that we not have any new appropriation requests, last year. So, with that, here is a copy of our internal calendar that I am presenting as well. Very similar to last year. So we would start the actual meetings and presentations between department heads and outside appropriation requests in May. So we have May 5th, 8th, 12th, and 15th. And then we would start compiling all of that information to start meeting all of our other deadlines. And this is very similar how we did it last year. And I remember last year we were like, wow, this is kind of early. And then as we went through it, we were, you know, kind of
Use
happy.
that all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we use that all the time.
Yeah. Funny for that.
Yeah. Any questions on the calendar?
Good thing about getting a lot of the labor done early is we never know last minute how the state may change it for us. And we have to change course. And so really, you know, at least you guys have the numbers and then we got to figure out the funding or where we got to cut.
Any recommendations on the baseline?
I would prefer that we wait till after Monday,
Mhm,
that we have
absolutely.
that conversation at the county officials luncheon. That seem fair?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to wait to approve the calendar until after Monday as well?
The calendar's fine.
Great.
Yeah.
Do we need to do a separate motion? Is that what you're saying?
If we can approve that, that'd be great.
Budget calendar, so we're just gonna do the budget calendar.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I'd make a motion to approve the 2026 budget calendar.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2026 budget calendar as presented. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you so much.
Hey, commissioners, it's time for, well, past time for me. Thanks for sticking around.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director, here with Planning and Development's February staff update. And I can Reader's Digest version all of this. So we can get through things. And of course, I'm always happy to answer any questions you might have. Keats, just a few things to note, although I've tried to keep you folks updated as soon as I find out information. Again, the Kansas Water Office, their water project, we did a couple rounds of application with them. We weren't awarded each of those. And I'm not finding anything specific to Keats as to why it wasn't. As you folks know, they got a lot of applications for a lot of funding that was just over what they had, and they just had to whittle it down and whatnot. So I've not gotten any kind of feedback about, well, it's because of Keats X, Y, and Z, or anything specific.
I think it's because we've got outside assistance elsewhere and quite a bit of dollars.
And it
for
could
this.
be.
That's what I
Yeah.
would think.
Yeah, it very well could be. I know a lot of times, and I'm not speaking just specifically to the water office, but a lot of programs will be, if you haven't received funding before from this, program, or
I
as
went
you
through the
said.
list and I naturally assumed that those are all one-time fundings. Then that's all they're receiving for that
Yeah,
particular
it sure could have
project.
been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just needed extra for us. We didn't get the full. On the original proposal, the original dollars we got, we were still short $1 million.
Right,
I
right,
was hoping
exactly.
we would get that.
Yeah, and we're still working on it, again. And just to go back to the water office real quick, of course, we did get their technical assistance grant. We've been working through that. We've been submitting our grant reports and getting our reimbursements, so that's going just fine. The small town water and sewer infrastructure grant that we got from KDHE is still hanging out there. Of course, that's for construction. We haven't gotten to that part yet. So once we do, that's all ready to go. The grant agreement signed, all of that. There's the ARPA money you folks have allocated. And USDA, they are still processing things. We've gotten them everything they need at this point. I'm knocking on this wood over here. They're processing things to evaluate and push it through. I've heard nothing about, no, we're not getting anything for that. I know there's a lot of stuff going on, federally, but nobody has told me or anybody working on this project that, nope, this is not going to happen. So we are still, you know, again, they're pushing things through. There's still the potential of a portion of it being grant funded. We will not know that, of course, until we know, you know, there's still competition for all of this stuff. We're not the only project they're trying to push through.
I get the indication that there will be opportunities still there. There's gonna be a lot of reroute to get to it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't think it's gonna happen soon, but unlike some of the other things, there will be a possibility. I did talk to the USDA people and they were reassuring on that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I think that's why, you know, they kind of, you know, these last few months are like, okay, let's get this stuff,
that's-
get the stuff in.
Seems
so
to
we
be
can
the
move
goal
it.
of the department moving forward is they want to move some of those federal funds if they are trying to shore up and to start moving them into these type of developmental funds that actually get to rural areas and for rural development and to our farmers and ranchers instead of staying at the high level. So that's the last thing I need. So we'll just move that on.
This meeting's running late and I figured everybody needed some sugar and there's even dark chocolate in there for our county.
Good.
clerk.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to hear that update as well. And yeah, I you know, heard that people are working on this, people pushing it through.
It's just not gonna happen.
Right, yeah, and I definitely wasn't expecting anything quick, but I'm glad that we haven't heard anything like, you know, this isn't, you know, nothing's gonna happen, or this is frozen or anything like that, so. We're just pushing along, and again, as soon as I hear anything, I will let everybody know, basically. Because yes, this is this last 1.11 to 1.1 million that, you know, we're hoping to get something more. Although I will say we have about 75% identified in grant funding, funds that do not need to be paid back. So we've actually gotten a lot of the community, which I'm happy for, so. Let's see, so. And we created a brochure outlining that information for the folks of Keats recently. They did understandably, you know, have some questions about, you know, what do we pay back versus what don't we, and what are we getting, and what completely understandable. There's so many different moving parts. It's easy to be confused by it. So hopefully the brochure that and I want to, she's not here, but I want to throw out some appreciation to Vivian for, you know, I put something together and I'm like, here you go. And she just makes it so much more fabulous. So yeah, so we got that out to the folks the last couple of weeks and another update to them. So really just kind of trying to keep in contact with them. BG is working on all kinds of different design things and various alignments and things. They're doing a lot of course, you know, behind the scenes, you know, if you will, in office work, but there's also a lot of work happening, work in terms of survey, trying to meet with property owners, you know, verifying things in the field as well. They do have a gentleman who's been out there last week and into this week, just verifying some different pieces. They're still trying to meet with all the homeowners that they need to meet with. There's some that, you know, they'll knock on the door and they haven't been able to connect with, but they're going to leave a letter on site with anybody who they haven't been able to connect with, you know, kind of giving them the scoop of what's going on, why they're there, what they're looking for, and then you know, BG's contact information to encourage them to call or come by or whatnot so they can have those conversations. So we're all just really trying to make sure we're out there and getting the information to the folks. So as usual, lots more to come on Keats and hopefully lots more good news. So anything more to talk about on Keats before we move along? Okay. Okay. So of course, we're working on the comp plan update. I gave you folks a fuller update on that the last couple of weeks. So if there's anything else you want to know about right now, happy to answer those questions, but just kind of move along. The subcommittees are meeting. We're connecting with Stantec and just getting, again, a lot of background work is getting done right now. So we're already in March, so soon we'll be back out into the community, setting up workshops, meeting with people again. And we're getting more interest in our comp plan committee as well. So I'm just really excited and happy that people are still interested and invested in this project. So I'm really pleased for that. So if you have any questions, let me know on that. REDAB, the Rural Economic Development Advisory Board, we've been doing our monthly meetings. Thank you to Commissioner McKinley for being there for our February meeting. A lot of great conversation. I received, appreciation or those comments from some of the members that they were grateful for you being there. And again, really appreciated the conversation. Commissioner Ford will be with us in March, in a couple weeks, and then Commissioner Foki will be with us in April to have those same conversations. Kurt Crabtree, he's one of our newer members. He will send you a list of kind of questions or things to be thinking about as it gets closer to your time that you'll come to the meeting. They're really just kind of trying to figure out what kind of their mission and direction and vision is, and they wanted your input to help shape that. So that's what these invitations and what your attendance is for right now, so we can kind of figure out what direction to go, basically.
Yeah, Amanda, other years we've had the Rural Economic Conference. Is that not going on this
So
year? Is
you
that-
have to ask Daniel about that. That is actually separate from what we do with REDAB. I mean, it's of course related, of course it is, but it's not something that I or REDAB would put together. I verified that with Gary before he left. I wanted to make sure if I needed to arrange that conference, I was on top of it. And he said, no, that's a extension thing that does that. So you'll want to check in with Daniel to see
So they
what they're doing. I haven't heard anything, but that doesn't mean they're not, working on something behind the scenes yet. So
Usually like March.
yeah, it's usually been, I think, early March.
Remember one year it was super cold, so it might have even been February.
Yeah. It's usually the beginning,
Yeah.
first few months of the year, but yeah, he should be able to give you some input on that one, so. So the LEPP grant, a local environmental protection program grant through KDHE, this is the $50,000 we got last year to help low to moderate income property owners with repair and replacement of their systems. If you remember, through the first application round, we have assisted 2 property owners, one who, as you know, we've had some interesting weather. And you can't really be doing dirt work of that kind when the ground is either covered in snow or so saturated. So it's taken them a lot longer than anticipated to get that going. It's done the next couple of weeks. So we're happy for that. And we've opened our second round and we've gotten that out to a variety of people. Now it's open to, it's open to folks who meet these requirements and, have systems that need attention. Now we send them to folks who we have known failures. When we send that information, they get the application as well. So hopefully that will be able to help them. So that is out there. It'll be open through the beginning of May, and hopefully we'll be able to get some more applicants so we can finish spending that $50,000. We just have to have everything allocated by the end of June. If work doesn't get completed within the end of June, that's okay as long as it's allocated. So we should be fine with that. And if you also remember, we applied for the 2026 LEPP portion, and I haven't heard anything yet. We're just waiting.
I'm gonna say that probably doesn't happen.
It's
throwing
quite
that out
possible. Yeah, we haven't heard anything. They're still waiting for, what kind of funding they're gonna get for that piece. We got a lot of applications, so I don't have information on that yet, but as always, as soon as I have the information, I'll let you folks know. So, and hopefully we get something, but if we don't, hopefully always another time, so. Let's see, I'm just gonna kind of go through some things here, but again, just want to remind you, even though I skip over some stuff, always happy to answer any questions you might have. Stottle Road, if you folks remember, it's been a while since we talked about this proposed benefit district. This is the one that has parts A, B, and C down there, just off Pillsbury. Just wanted to give you an update that I received from the city. Basically, they're still working on stuff. Parts A and B are going together, even though they're looking at them as 2 separate parts. They're going concurrently. And so they're a lot further along than part C. So right now they're, let's see, they're get closer to me. So they're going to advertise sometime this month and bid in April. And so they're going to have to wait. If you remember, these petitions are a few years old at this point. So they are going to have to wait and see what the bids come back at. If they're over original petition levels, we got to go back and start. The city has to go back and start again, essentially. If they're at or below what the original petitions were, they can go forward. So we'll know more information in the next few months, but at least it is progressing. Part C, that came online a little bit later, so that's why it's a little bit further behind than parts A and B. They got draft design complete and they're working on, well, they have the engineer's estimates, and so they're working on petition documents. So if you remember, the fire station property is gonna be one of those that to sign a petition for, but I don't have that information yet. They're still working on it, but Randy had provided that information to us, a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to make sure to have that before you folks too, so. Let's see, so school inspections, just a reminder, we passed the charter resolution to cease school inspection, will cease Riley County performing their piece of school inspections. Lots of inspections still happen at the schools. I want to make sure we did see some comments about, oh my gosh, schools are not getting inspected anymore, nobody's doing anything. That's very much so not the case. It's just the little piece that Riley County was doing that was completely redundant is not getting done anymore. All the inspections, all the food inspections and the safety inspections, and the fire marshal and the bill, all of that is still getting done. So this is not removing any of those inspections. That is just removing Riley County's redundant inspections that are not really useful for anybody. So as required, we published that in the Mercury on February 8th and February 15th, and it will be in effect 60 days after that final publication. So that would be April 16th. Provided we don't get any protest petition or appeal. So, and I think, on Monday, you folks, I know we'll be looking forward to it. We'll have more short-term rental regulation discussion. So we'll have some time for that.
Need to chat with you on that item.
Okay, sure. And I think that'll do it unless you have any questions or anything else you want to know about. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make a suggestion.
You're next. What?
That's, okay. I thought we were gonna discuss the 2396, and
I was,
That's he's next.
I was gonna try to breeze through that quickly if we.
okay.
But would the commission like to discuss 2396 or?
Yeah.
You would, okay, I'll try to do it very quickly. Commissioners, Brian Parker, County Counsel. And I'm happy to, I'm very aware of time. So, the first thing I wanted to say, before we talk about 2396, this will be the only other thing that is in my report, is to briefly discuss the property of exemption application, how the application review is done by our appraiser. Basically, she looks at state guidelines, which are tremendously inconsistent and provide her relatively little guidance most of the time. And then she'll call me up and there'll be a question, right? And the perfect example would be the pending, would be the exemption applications for the city's 2 rec centers, right? The letter of the law is that any income producing property, right, should be, regardless of who it's owned by, should be classified as taxable. Right? When we were presented those applications at that point, the fees that were being generated, it was going to be generally open use with some moderate fees to cover use of like a specific room for, if I remember correctly, well, if you're going to have a birthday or something, right? There was some wiggle room in some of the decisions that the Kansas Board of Tax Appeals has come down with that talked about incidental use for like fee recovery, right? For that type of thing. So knowing that historically, and the thing I would point to is Meadowlark Hills, when we have applied what the Kansas Board of Tax Appeals has told us to apply, they have overruled our recommendation that it should be taxable based off of their own guidelines, right? Knowing that, and also knowing that we're certainly not as a county trying to antagonize our city partners, right? We went ahead and I said, I think I can get comfortable legally with an interpretation that the word tax appeal is probably going to come down that way, right? Now that they're going to look at charging fees for those structures, right? As I understand Kansas law, they should be immediately put back on the tax rolls, right? And they should have to pay taxes full tilt, just like everybody else. Am I saying that's what Boda would come on and say? I have stopped being able to predict what the Board of Tax Appeals does as an entity. I can just tell you that Kansas law says that those city properties should be put on the tax rolls. The other thing that I would voice, I dearly love Brenda Wolf in the city as the city clerk. She is an amazing human being, right? She took on the yeoman's task of catching up on the city's tax exempt applications. We had previously communicated with the city manager's office, and by we, I mean the county. Our county appraiser had communicated with them for, I want to say, a year and a half, right? Saying we need to have property tax exemption applications put on. And
In advance, or?
no, it was the state law is that anytime property is purchased or changes hands, regardless of if it's owned by a city or county or private entity, you have to put an application on for a tax exemption. It's not automatic, right? Cities goof on this all the time around the state. I've represented a lot of cities in my past, and my mom was deputy county counselor, represented the appraiser of county, right? Generally, when you inform a city that, hey, we need an application, right? Within about 30 days, they get one on file. We informed the city of Manhattan for over a year and a half, directly to the manager's office. And that was not taken seriously until a series of meetings had occurred, one of which I attended, when I explained that if there was a failure to get it on file by the end of last year, I want to say, what was it, $1.2 million that had been paid in taxes? Right.
It was for all of the property that we had no exemption.
Yeah, and so that was going to necessarily just become property tax revenue that would not go back to the city, right? Then I worked extensively with the city to try to help come up with language that would make the application, at least as we understood what they were telling us, the use of the property was acceptable. And so we did that, and we got it in just in time so that you could get the application sent on to Boda so that the $1.2 million that had been paid in by the city could be refunded, right? Now, does that cause a tremendous administrative headache for not just our staff, right? Yeah, it also prevents localities from being able to accurately budget, right? Because if we're showing that, what was it, about $20 million in appraised value is still on the books, right? It's tough to come up with what your budget should be, right? We worked around it. And so I'm just highlighting that that is something that as county staff, we have tried to accommodate. And I trust that based off of the truly healthy dialogue we've had with the city manager's office since then, that because they've been fantastic. I think once the level of importance that $1.2 million could be lost. I mean, it wouldn't be lost. It would just go to various taxing subdivisions, right? I guess out of one pocket into other pockets. But since it wasn't probably an expense that the city had anticipated, right? We felt as county that we should do literally everything that we could possibly do. And so we went ahead and did that. And I trust that won't be an issue going forward, but I just wanted to make folks aware that we have been trying to do our jobs as county staff. And also, I don't want anyone to misconstrue my comments as saying that I believe that for some reason the city's 2 rec centers should be taxable. I'm just saying that under Kansas law, as it's written, if they start charging user fees, they should be put on the tax rolls, right? That's how it's been for the last, I don't know, ever since we've had property taxes. If you produce income in a property, right, it should go on the tax rolls, right? That's just how the laws are written. you know? But at the same time, I wanted to make the board aware of this because my legal advice, which Anna has been following, right, is that, you know, we don't want to create the impression that the county somehow is trying to be an ogre when we're administering property taxes. And so because there's tremendous confusion about what should and what shouldn't be exempt, right? I've been advising that we liberally construe every piece of guidance, and I'll continue to do that unless we want to try to force litigation over these issues, which I'm not sure that we would win until we went to the Kansas Court of Appeals. So with that, I'll go to my property tax relief discussion of House Bill 2396. House Bill 2396 is a discussion, is proposed legislation. There's a mirror, it's not a mirror statute, but there's a very condensed version of it called Senate Bill 280 that Anna made me aware of right as we went into, right before we went into meeting with this governing body meeting. Basically, long story short, this legislation proposes that local government budgets would be limited in their increase to the CPI plus value increases that are attributable to new construction and renovations on existing construction on a per year basis, right? It's a step of removal away from the revenue tax, excuse me, I always get it wrong. Commissioner Ford, you know what I'm talking about.
Revenue neutral rate.
Revenue neutral rate. It's a step away from the revenue neutral rate, which, as we all know, since it doesn't track inflation, makes it very difficult and creates a public impression that somehow governments, our budgets are always ballooning when in fact they aren't. We just are subject to inflation like everyone else. So this kind of clarifies that public debate. There would be an ability to exceed increases by the CPI plus the new construction and property taxes. But that would be subject to referendum if the voters demanded it. Another thing that it talks about is the establishment of a fund called the Astra Fund, which, while it's subject to availability in the context of having pretty healthy state surplus at this point, it looks like for at least the next couple of years it would be funded. Starts off at $60 million. That's distributed on the following basis. It's 65% on the basis of county population figures and 35% on the basis of property tax values, right? There would need to be some implementing regulation from the state of Kansas Property Valuation Division that would say exactly, because the language talks about when it gets to the county level, we split up the funds between the cities and the county, but not the proportion that each has for the overall mill levy. But since there's multiple cities in each county, I don't know if they would take an average, or it would probably be done on a per taxing district basis, right? And so because each taxing district has its, and Rich and Brittany could, and Shiloh could talk about this way more elegantly than I can, but each taxing district has its own little number assigned to it. So we would just go basically based off of that for the taxes received in each taxing district. So I hope that there are some things that may be nice about this legislation in that it does not affect how property is valued. So it would not compromise the valuation that goes on with fair market value. That's kind of the thing that I would really point to. And then to understand what its impact might be on future budgets, if the county commission would desire, I couldn't answer that. That's something that county clerk's office and budget and planning could look at, I'm sure, come up and say, have we really exceeded CPI increases over the last, several years? Is that something that we frequently do?
I think we have since probably 2019, my first year.
I mean, we can do it, but I have other counterparts in other counties that, they start running all these numbers based on something that they know is going to happen or not happen. And we can spend a lot of time on that, or we could wait to see what happens and then analyze it.
The first thing to take into consideration, this is getting voted on the floor today. So you'll know after today one way or the other, but I don't.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I
it's a
think
long
that's
process. The
nice.
governor's also said she's not doing anything with tax, so well, they may vote on it and pass it, the governor may veto it, then they gotta go back, and so it's a ways before it's over.
Right.
Nothing goes into effect until July 1.
Well, that is,
Override it, but that's all right.
and again, as I close out my report, and I understand for questions, I'm aware that our city manager is in the audience, and this is by no means, wasn't trying to start a war with the city of Manhattan. Love you guys, right? Think very highly of all of the folks over there. In the city manager's office, it's always an education process, right? These discussions happened before you came on board, right? I used to serve in your city, right? Love the city attorney, right? But since Commissioner Ford actually identified this issue, right? I do get frustrated when there's a disconnection between authority and responsibility. And in our community, right, I am very tired of having our county appraiser who's trying to do her job, right, and administer an archaic and not well worded set of laws that we don't get clarity on, get badmouthed. And I'm not here for it. And so I've tried to help out as much as I can. And now I'm now making it known to the public that we are doing what we know how to do, right? And we are looking to say yes to exemption applications any way that we know how. We are trying to say yes to exemption applications. We're also trying to process things as fast as we can. And so I hope that that additional context is useful. And with that, I stand for questions. I'm sure I made no friends at 1101.
Well,
Speaking
I
of
just
truth
want
and
to
Christian love.
make clear, my earlier comments weren't directed towards the county appraisers, to a
Thank you.
larger issue.
I figured as much. I get a little protective of Anna, as I've always said I have one bias when I'm advising the governing body, and everybody has heard it at this county over and over again. I am in the bag for staff, right? Especially staff that is dedicated as Anna person is to doing her job. And
What ends up happening here is you're gonna get another list of tax exemptions from privately owned enterprises for this same purpose.
Mhm.
And it's hard for me to argue that fact.
Yep.
Based off of what's already in front of us.
Yep. Oh, and we're also, I mean, we have, my office has been comparing what other cities, what other counties are doing across the state for if somebody's house burns down, right? You know, we talked about that several weeks ago. And the answer is, and I'm not trying to steal Jacob's thunder, but how do you ever administer a policy like that? Because if your house burnt down, it's already a tragedy, right? If your property burnt down, it's a tragedy. So, right, there's really no way to make a rational discernment based off of one person's sob story versus the other. It's just, are you going to start offering that or not? And in a tax base where we have 42% of our property is not assessed, right? We might be in a little bit of a different position than somewhere that has quite most of their property on the tax rolls. And I think historically, that's why we haven't entertained those requests. But I know that's not going to be the most popular stance in the community. And I'm just, at this point, I'm a little frustrated.
Just remember to shop the West Loop and to make sure we're frequenting those businesses along Anderson Avenue. I know that they would surely appreciate it. We know that going through construction in front of your business is certainly a challenge. And along those lines, 12th Street, we have a big construction project going on 12th Street down in Aggieville. So this project is going to be from Laramie to Manhattan Avenue. We will start with the intersection of Morrow Street and 12th Street. That intersection will be completely closed down. So we are working with our public works crew, also with Riley County Police Department to make sure that we are communicating that change in traffic. The good news is we will not be starting until after graduation. That is a 30-day window, but and we know that that's going to be very difficult. We're trying to get in and get out as quickly as possible with that intersection. So then after we get that intersection done, we will start on the construction of 12th. We have to start with the intersection because there is some water line infrastructure, which is really the main reason for doing a lot of this reinvestment down in Aggieville is just that failing infrastructure. So we will then begin working on 12th Street from the alley tomorrow, and then of course then from to Laramie working on, from Laramie working to coordinate with the construction of that private hotel. And as we're kind of working with our street construction as well. We're replacing failing water and sewer infrastructure along with the streetscape and beautification, very similar to some of those other projects that you've seen down in Aggieville. Denison Avenue, excited to report that will be completed in June of 2025. We are having the pieces of that truss that's going to go across Kimball is going to be delivered over the course of the next several days. It is coming in 40 pieces, and then we will be constructing it over spring break, again, trying to coordinate around having less students and less traffic up around campus. So very excited, very appreciative of all of our partners who have helped us with that project, but I know everyone is very excited to have that project completed.
Do we have to put lights there? I kind of like it without.
You like that speedway over there on the north side of campus?
I do.
We just want to stop it for the pedestrians on game day.
Fair enough.
So another thing that I'm excited to report, and I know you all heard present on this morning, but we did get $1.8 million in that middle income housing and Kansas housing investor tax credit grants from the state to work on getting 40 additional units in our community. And I think that's something that we should certainly be excited about and celebrate. So other things that we are working on at the city, we are taking a look at our development review process. So I know you all have been at several of those. I know I've seen Commissioner Ford and all of you at some of those meetings that we've been having with the chamber with the growth plan strategy. And one of those things that we have been charged with is taking a really good look at our development review process. And so as part of that, we've been looking at a software solution, but in addition to that software solution, really challenging our department directors to take a look that if we could start our development review process from scratch, how would we do it? Let's kind of throw everything we've always done in the past out. We've got a new software coming on board. We know we're going to have to like work through workflows. So really excited about that. So we have meetings. We have a little committee there at City Hall, and we've been working with them, but also bringing in our partners in the chamber to help us and the development community to help us look at that so that we can facilitate that development review process and try to speed things along. So
Is Matt Tarleton working with you, the consultant on there too, or no?
he's not working with us on this particular project. This is really all internal.
Okay.
I don't know if you all are tracking that we have been working on a new ERP system.
Yeah.
Okay, so this software, it's a licensing and permitting software, but it really helps us track our workflows, and it actually gives us a forward-facing portal for the development community too, but then it all ties in to that ERP system. So really looking forward to some significant technology and some efficiency increases that we're looking at there. The other thing I just wanted to share, we're very excited to work with you all on the 24 corridor study. I think that was a great joint city-county planning that we had the other day. It looked like there was going to be a lot of coordination and a lot of partnership and collaboration. And I know that our team's been working with Jared and you know, getting those interlocal agreements and with KDOT and some of those you know, memorandums of understandings and just facilitating that. But we're very excited to get that corridor study underway and work with you all. And then the last thing that I just wanted to share with you all, Mr. Vargo and Dr. Reed and I had a conversation yesterday, and we're just really kind of in the very infancy of exploring some opportunities with the three of us, the school district, the county, and the city, that we could partner together. We're kind of tossing those things around, but just wanted to share that we're looking forward to those opportunities. I think we have a chance to really work together to build some really nice amenities for our community. And I know that Mr. Vargo is going to talk to you all about how we can get in front of you early in the process and make sure that we're bringing you all along with us, because we certainly want to have you at the table as we start making those.
Seco Park.
Seco Park. Yeah, sorry. Seco Park. So being able to partner with you all on those conversations, but just figuring out what's the right way to get in front of you all so that we can bring you all along in that conversation. So, all right. Again, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come and present to you all, and have a great day.
You too.
Yeah. Safe trip.
Yeah, thank you.
You're back on schedule.
That's sarcasm?
No, I didn't think we were gonna get there, so I ran back over to the office to grab some things. And ran back.
You could have said yes to, it wouldn't have been a big deal. No. I ate too much. I was in DC. I've got to take a break for a while.
How long do you think it'll take?
Huh.
How long do you think it'll take?
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Budget and Finance Officer Brittany Phillips. I'm here to present the KDHE fiscal year 26 aid to local grant application. So this is for the health department, and this aid to local grant package includes FEP, Wildcat Region FEP, family planning, maternal and child health, child care licensing, immunization action plan, and state formula. I know we've already presented raising Riley. The other one that you won't see for at least another month, a month and a half is WIC. They operate on a different fiscal year, so theirs is October 1st to September 30th. So multiple fiscal years to manage there at the health department. So
That timeline might actually change too, unfortunately.
yeah, we're watching.
Yeah.
So this year, Finance and HR developed a new way to work with the grant funded programs to accurately reflect their fiscal year as well as Riley County's calendar year. So most grants, like I said, for the health department are for July 1st to June 30th, except for WIC, which is October 1st to September 30th. And I do list in here because I know it's been asked in the past, like how formulas are broken down for the different grants. So I added a little bit of background on childcare licensing. They've also came and gave a presentation. Immunization also has this breakdown that was very specific. I know when you look at these dollar amounts, you're like, oh, we're only getting $9,000 in immunization. Why is that? So I wanted to provide that explanation for you.
That might be good information to actually break down into more of a chart
Sure, absolutely.
that could be shared.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the first year that we've actually done this process like this. And we usually aren't involved in these grant funded program budget discussions until, you know, our budget cycle starts. And then we're looking at really our calendar year and not accounting for, you know, that they operate really on two calendar years. So half this year, half next year. And so we revamped the entire thing and created spreadsheets very similar to the ones that you guys also see in May when we do all the other budgets. So this is for the state fiscal year, so July 1 through June 30th. So because this is the first year that we've ever done it like this, you're probably seeing blank spots and thinking, why is there no money listed there? Because when we submit the grant applications, we do not have to insert, you know, these fees that we collect from providers or that we get from insurance, stuff like that. When we do our quarterly reports, we do have to report on that and what income we are making, but in the grant process, we do not. As well as salaries here, like this middle column was really a lot of piecing together what we have applied for in the past or this past year and applying it to our spreadsheets so that it kind of goes hand in hand with how our accounting software lines up. So next year, this will look much cleaner because we'll be moving this 24 over. You'll have actuals, and then you'll have, you know, the state fiscal year 25 and then 26 and 27, really. So then, because this has also been asked for specifically last year, it was requested about aid to local match requirements. And how much really are we paying up front to help cover costs and how much is the state paying? So I provided this breakdown and these, I'm going to highlight some of these I should have highlighted them before, I'm sorry. So state formula, this is FEP and also regional FEP, family planning, MCH, childcare licensing, and then immunization are all the grants that we applied for. And on here, you can see that on some of these, there's no match required, but we do pay to help cover those costs. Like if it's not being made up between, you know, the grant or like insurance fees for immunization is a great example. The county is covering some of that cost.
But here's my question, are we covering the cost for Riley County? Or are we covering the cost for all the counties? So that there's a difference.
Right, there is absolutely a difference. And for like, you know, childcare licensing is a big one that we talked about last year. We are covering the cost for the multiple counties. Wildcat region, I have in here, let me pull it up. So here is the grant application for Wildcat region. $30,330, and that's about the amount that same amount that we get in grant funding too. So that one, we're not covering any additional extra for Wildcat. FEP, however, we are, because we only receive, you know, 49,000, and then we're covering the rest of that. So let me go back up here to this sheet. And the biggest one I really want to talk about is state formula because it's pretty confusing. We
They're
get,
talking about changing it too, correct? Or they're in the process of changing it, one or the other, something?
I'm not tracking that state formula is changing. Jacob, do you have?
It's been a catch-all for a number of years.
Okay.
You might see some allowables change from year to year. But for a very long time, it's been oftentimes basic health services, clinical services that aren't covered under the auspices of IAP or FP.
So, and I called KDHE too, asking questions about state formula because you can see, and I'm sure, Greg, because you're a numbers guy, I know you caught this. Sorry, lots of back and forth here, but this 2,056,160, this is state formula. So every year, KDHE requests the total dollar amount that the county is providing to the health department. So that includes the appropriation amount plus portions of like salaries that are paid out of the general fund. So, you know, the custodian, we have IT that we have a project code to. All of that adds up to the $2,056,160. However, because when you're looking at when you go to report it, it's very confusing. And even when I was trying to calculate the appropriation request, I'm like, this does not make sense to me. So I talked to KDHE and they said that we can change this line, you know, the state formula maintenance of effort to only be our Riley County appropriation amount. And we will not lose the state formula grant funding. It will not reduce because of us reducing that number. They understand that we're trying to accurately reflect what the county is giving to the health department and that we're not including those like custodian costs and stuff when we're reporting on our quarterly reports. So, like Jacob said, state formula is the catch-all. So in that appropriation request or maintenance of effort, as the state calls it, that should also be our like 40% match for MCH. Now, we don't have to report that 40% match for MCH in state formula. We report it on MCH in the quarterly report, but they understand that that is where like the catch-all kind of happens. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, it's clear as mud, right?
Not really, but
yeah,
it's KDHE in the state, so.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty confusing, yeah, but
Spin up and down through that.
I know.
A few more times, I'm gonna go.
yeah, I know, I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm already doing that, so you might as well, you can change anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of documentation. Yeah, so I apologize for that, but. And then the appropriation request we didn't include in here, because we are still working through, the admin budgets really, and that's the biggest piece. And so, and also because we don't know what we're going to be funded by the state, it's hard to create that appropriation request right now. Whereas, you know, like community corrections, we have a number for you that we're presenting on Monday because they tell us up front, here's how much money you're gonna get, period. You're not getting anything else. So the state, we're kind of, while we expect them to keep things relatively flat, I'm not prepared to give you an appropriation request number at this time. Do you have any questions on any of these budgets?
Even if I did, I don't know what good it's gonna do.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you would like us to bring back? I mean,
No,
Appreciate getting that.
it's more in depth really than it has been in the past. but
yes,
I still have that issue of Riley County dollars going to other county for other services. And that's, once again, it's not anything that you guys are doing wrong. It's just,
We have to keep it in mind.
right.
Yeah.
Are we still working on that memo that we were gonna send?
we need to get Bryant up to speed, I think, ultimately.
We were supposed to do that last year. so
Yes.
I think,
And with all due respect, that was late in the process last year too.
right, and that's why.
Yeah. Perfectly fine. I just wanted to clarify that. We did that like in late April or May or something. We were in the middle of the process. so-
Last fall, we talked about sending a memo. for you
Correct.
guys.
Yeah,
Mhm.
appreciate that.
Yes.
No, I don't have anything else.
I actually forgot this beforehand. Should we have Need a motion to recess as commissioners and reconvene
Yes.
as board. So before you make a motion to approve.
Yeah, because it wasn't listed as board of health. It was
Yeah.
listed under you.
Right.
So
Yeah, actually it was.
So do we need to do that? or-
Yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to do that before we make a motion.
Okay.
I go ahead and make a motion then to recess as the Board of County Commission and then reconvene as the Board of County Health.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to, what was it? Recess. Recess as the Board of County Commissioners and reconvene as the County Board. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll let you make the motion on the actual motion.
Okay, where is it? On the very top or the bottom?
On the bottom.
Yeah,
Row.
yeah, it's a big packet, so. But we wanted to give you all the information because we know this really hasn't been the norm in the past. You haven't had it broken down like this.
No.
Or even the grant applications in the past. You've never had those.
Well, we probably need about 2 weeks to look at it.
I completely understand and if,
And we may get that time because those dollar amounts may change.
yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Along the way.
It isn't at the bottom.
it's in the
I'll go ahead.
recommendation.
Yeah, it's just where it says possible motions.
It must
On
be
the
at
very
the
first
top.
page.
Hmm?
It's right there.
Oh, okay. Well, I make a motion to approve the applications as presented for the Raleigh County.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve applications as presented for the Raleigh County Health Department. All in favor?
Thank you, commissioners.
Bottom goes to the township discussion.
Look at that. We're now 8 minutes ahead. Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome. I mean, I try to make your life easier, minus all the scrolling.
Okay. Okay, let's see. So we don't have any more Board of Health.
Not at this moment. You do have Jan at the end of the meeting.
We have to do that again. Yeah, I have to do that again.
Yeah.
Do we want to put Jan's here, do that now? We said
Well, she's
we're in the
not
Board of
here. She's
Health.
not
Oh,
here.
she isn't here. I don't.
I'll go ahead then just make a motion that we recess as the Board of County Health and then reconvene as the Board of County Commission.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to recess the County Board of Health, reconvene as Board of County Commissioners. All in favor?
I stretch my legs. It's been like 4 hours.
That's a little piece there.
That was sorry.
I know, isn't this
Yeah,
like
just a couple of pages.
couple pages compared to my 100?
Well, we talked about $1 million.
Yeah,
Probably we need to put those together in the future if we can, the board of, anything with the health department. Because, that way we don't have to recess in and recess.
Kind of, yeah.
That would be good.
We'll try as much as possible.
Yeah. I know.
Have a good day.
Okay.
I don't think because
Well, we need to approve township.
my understanding is that is also a
Well,
reimbursement.
the Senate, the Senate
So.
committee would look into it. It's-
So they did give me
So I looked at that.
Mhm.
this,
Well, it's to approve setting up a group to look into things and see what it all.
Mhm.
We need to get paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best place.
Well, there is a-
Yeah, I think.
Because he doesn't have any values, so, or these values. Well, it's cheaper to fix it.
Hey, Amanda.
Russell.
Brian's fault.
Schedule.
And I asked Brian, he's allowed to have a term. But we didn't work. I don't know why we can't put it through it. Who would put it through it?
I mean, we can.
Yeah, you'll need to see.
She talked to her.
Oh, good, but again.
I mean, I can.
Okay, that's. But you know, it's called that. Rich says that he's.
With that. So that.
It's hard to.
Yeah, and I have my like.
The dam.
That's not right. This is.
Yeah.
Is this?
Yes, you guys are absolutely.
Well, yeah. It's not, it's either too complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, because Brian. Yeah, I understand. I said, well, come down and count stairs. He said that was the reason. That's what he said. That's what John said.
10, 15
But I don't know
minutes.
how many.
if not more. We should- I'm hoping to start
That's
seeing
always one.
this temporary traffic soon. Or towards the end of the month.
They didn't turn it on.
It's pretty cool.
I wouldn't think
No.
they will-
Oh, yeah. It was on the road.
A lot of traffic. Bypassing.
Yeah, I was on the road, has a really.
Now, that's by such a house.
No, it was it what the current was fine. Because it's solid, the seal. When you get in wind,
It makes
it
sense.
pulls it out, so all the sound of the wind comes in. Because I forgot that. Well, it was so-
Yeah, but I don't know. I wish, I don't know how.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it. Oil. They have to get out first.
I mean.
Yeah. And you couldn't even hear the.
Yeah.
Anything
plans for your weekend?
Yeah.
No, peace and quiet.
We
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a long.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Even with the depth, man, they really just don't have it right without
It's
leading.
a little lengthy.
Such a shame.
No, I'm gonna go. Calculating.
So we got our first men's recruit for 25. Know much about him, but.
Needs to go.
See I see him in a couple of games at least.
No, who's playing?
K-State
Women and who's there?
UCF.
Oh, okay. Never heard of him.
In K-State baseball starts off in their first home series.
Hopefully, would they do postpone the one because of all the wind?
Yeah, Which they probably could have played
I
after
probably
all.
could have had a couple home runs. Yes.
I think the way the wind was blowing, it'd be blowing in, it'd probably be hitting it backwards.
It's kind of funny, the wind, like when I left home, it was like it from the southeast, and then it switched, it was from the northwest. So it was kind of changing. Would have been hard to play. baseball.
I don't see him. You're on.
Well, my turn.
Yeah.
Great. Well, good morning. How are you?
Good.
My name's Pat Collins. I'm the Ballot Township clerk. Lifelong citizen of Riley County, taxpayer. And I got like 50 years of service, public service for the county, and almost all of that is included using the roads and bridges and stuff like that for all across the county. And so I've got a vested interest in making sure that things happen, for roads and things like that. And I get the question, and it's been coming up for years, ever since Potawatomi County and Clay County decided to go to the county unit system. I hear conversations, both private and public, that does Riley County want to go to a county unit system? And people come to me, I have other townships come to me and say, what do you think? And I'm going, I don't know. Don't know the answers, and I know one thing, I don't like change without knowing what the ramifications are. So what I'm offering today is to organize a group that would get together, task force, subcommittee, whatever you want to call it, and utilize some of your support from the public works and different offices to answer questions and try to come up with a summary of whether or not this might be a good idea or might be a bad idea, or and what the cost might be, and some things like that. So I just wanted to throw that out and see if you're interested. And I know the township meeting is next week, and I thought it'd be a good time to recruit people to help if you're interested.
No, I know it comes up. I get calls on it too. And looked into it, and then you think, well, that has worked, but then, oh, what about this? But there's a lot. It isn't just, oh, let's switch. There's a lot. Like you mentioned here, what effect does that have on the townships? What does it have the county? How does it work? How would you make the switch? To have a group to look into all those questions would be good to get us the information, because like I say, some people say, oh, there won't be any problem, go ahead and do it. Well, that's not true.
No, there's also an election process that's involved in it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
right.
Right,
It has to be an election to get to this. And just that, no, I think it'd be a good idea to have a group to look into it to see what all the ramifications would be.
Yeah, I didn't know until I started looking into it. There's townships out there with parks. They take care of cemeteries. They've got buildings. They've got contracts for rock, contracts for weed control. Tree removal stuff. All that kind of got to be looked at. And I thought it'd be a good idea. I met with John and a couple of his people before this just to see if something that he was interested in. So. I don't know, John, do you want to say something?
I can. I think we're interested in as far as maybe supplying information. I don't want to be an influencer on anybody's decision on what we do or not. But I sure welcome.
Well, I think it's important to have public works input because a lot of what that transition is gonna be in your department.
And we would probably have better access, or at least know where to find some of the information statute wise.
Right.
And whatever. I mean, I'd be more willing to work with him and that group on that. I didn't want to be a part of it as a decision maker.
Right, sure.
Yeah, a lot of it is cost, equipment, personnel, how big is the township, how small is, a lot of those things.
Well, and that's why I thought maybe Joe would be good to have on her, because he knows all the township budgets, and what they spend and things like that, and I am sure that, we balance 52 miles of road, 38 of them are rock, and there's a big difference between us and Madison that has maybe 8 or 10, 12 miles of road, so, and so it would be different for each of us.
I think that's a good idea to do that. We need a motion for that.
Yes.
Set up an advisory committee or what?
Working group or something. Yeah, I would make a motion that we would have have a working group or small task force to study the idea of the county unit, produce a report that we could take a look at, and it would be so that it could be discussed at the township meeting.
Well, we're gonna pull volunteers.
For volunteers,
Yeah. Kind of should be, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I can second that.
All right, moved and seconded to set up an advisory group for the county possible switches to county unit or other township, the old township roads. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, well, thank you, folks.
Thank you, Pat.
I'll probably see you next week at the township meeting.
Yeah.
But you have to now.
Yeah. I think I'm already on the agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Ellerman, right, Public Works. And today I'm talking about Marlat Road reconstruction or Avenue reconstruction project. It's kind of been on our radar for a while. It was originally one of the 0.2 sales tax project to look at. And finally got enough where we have an agreement here in your packet with the city and an agreement with Benish Construction or Benish Consulting to do the design, which was the commissioner approved that a few years ago. So the idea on this project was to finish the county's portion of Marlat Avenue from the Dennison Marlat project that was done a handful of years ago. This project will, I've described it backwards, but I keep doing it in my head this way. So Dennison Avenue to College would be like a two lane section with a 10-foot trail on the south side. With turn lanes, looking at left turn lanes and the idea of whether right turn lanes are needed at College. Continue through College Avenue to Browning will be a 3-lane section. Most of that is to put left turn lanes into the subdivision on the north side of the road and the different roads approaching it. Continuing with the 10-foot trail all the way to there. The trail will then kind of go south on Browning to the First Street. And then the city wanted it to continue on to the west to Tataracks, the entrance to Tataracks subdivision. We've been working with the city on scope mainly for the project. This part of Browning is the city, in the city limits. Just east of the intersection is county, so that we'll work with the city on it. Right now, we just have the agreement with the city to split cost on the consulting, the design cost. It's about a 75-25 split, with the county being the 75%, since most of that is on county roadway.
What about Tataracks up to Setchild? Who owns that?
So from Browning to Setchild is city
Oh, we just have it to Cataract,
We have it just to Browning.
just to Browning, and that's city on the other side.
Right.
Okay.
There was some discussion with the city early on about continuing all the way to Setchild, but their funding stuff wouldn't let them do that at the time. And there's some discussion on 3 lanes, 2 lanes, and how they wanted to go through there that they weren't ready to decide on yet.
Well, there's master teacher up there that, you know, I mean, you have to take a big curve. up
Well, and
there.
that was part of it too.
Yeah.
They wanted to
Well,
straighten
that's-
out that intersection or
Yeah,
part
that's
that part of the.
part of
road.
another corridor study, yeah.
And that was backed off on, and they at least wanted the trail and to do the intersection at Browning. And so that's where they're.
My question is where is the city coming up with funds for the trail?
I did not ask that.
If they're coming up with federal dollars, that's not gonna happen the next transportation
I
bill.
don't think they really intended to come up with the trail funds and asking for any grant for that, but our agreement with them allows them still to approach that if they wanted to.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Is it 10 foot wide? Is that, why is it that wide?
Yeah, that's what I wondered. That's my
where
second
The
question.
bike and trails are bigger than sidewalks. So that's where you get the bike and hiking and walking.
So it's
trails.
basically like it is over on Kimball up in
Yes.
Grand Mere.
And what we have
Other parts.
from Dennison.
Well, I can see it over on Kimball here, I can't, but
That along Dennison and Marlat across the highway is 10-foot trail.
Not that many pedestrians.
And a lot of that, I think, came from the trail grants and that the state had been given or before is to make accommodations for two-way bike and hiking trail that was a 10-foot wide. A 5-foot sidewalk.
You just had somebody, I can't remember who it was, just somebody a couple weeks ago asking, why didn't that bike trail go all the way across on Marlette? I said, it will. Give us some time.
Well, this is the,
That's what I said. I said, it's in the planning. I said, it's not gonna be done until after the roundabouts are done and the roads are. But
so you see in your packet, the finish agreement is $655,100. I don't know how to estimate the construction cost.
Yeah.
I'm assuming an over 4 million. I hope it's not 6 million. Like that would indicate at 10%. So, but we won't know that until we start getting into more of the design, or as we go, start getting estimates or a probable cost from them. But this is our first step. Can't do anything with anybody until we sign our share of that. The cities signed their part of the agreement to share the cost of the design. And so has Benish signed their agreement too, and I have both of those in your packet.
So it's 25/75 then, so 75 for us, is that what
Yes,
you said? Okay,
Of the design,
of the design.
I think we'll bill or set up the project different as far as maybe a phase 1, phase 2, or a part 1 and part 2, county portion, city portion. And I'm assuming maybe again, we'll set up the project, run the project, make the payments to the contractor, and then bill the city for, just like we will on the design portion. I put in 2 motions in there. I don't know if you want to do them together or separately, one for the city county agreement, one for the Benish agreement.
Okay. We move to approve the county city agreement for the cost share of the design services for the Marlette Avenue reconstruction project.
I would second that.
been moved and seconded to approve the city county agreement for cost share on the design services, Marlette Avenue reconstruction. All in favor?
Aye.
I can also move to approve the agreement with Benish for the design services of the Marlette Avenue reconstruction project.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agreement with Benish for the design services on Marlette Avenue reconstruction project. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Is there one more service?
Yeah, it's all over. We got to make a motion between there too.
Yeah, we got a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, I would make a motion to recess as a board of county commissioners and reconvene as a board of county health.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to recess as the board of county commission. Convene as the board of health. All in favor? Aye.
2 seconds. Okay.
18 to 11 being the first quarter.
Hey, say.
I'm keeping track with it. It started at 11. It should be fast. More than fast first quarter, but that's what they've got here. Go ahead, Jane.
Okay, thank you. I'm here to present for Raising Riley. Our clerk position's been vacant since the end of August of 24. We've intentionally delayed hiring a new team member due to the events that were taking place during that time. And we also wanted to have our new health department director on board before we brought somebody new on. Raising Riley has taken the opportunity during this time to evaluate the program's needs relating to this position, along with the duties to be assigned, and we've determined that our need is only for a part-time position. 30 hours a week will be sufficient to accomplish the duties and responsibilities outlined in the position description. It should be attached to your packet, the new position description for your review. This has been a position that's integral part of the Raising Riley program delivery, and they play a vital role in our operations daily. There is no fiscal impact. It's already been budgeted for. And so I recommend that you approve the posting and refilling of the Raising Riley clerk position.
Well, let's see, I'll make a motion to approve the posting and refilling of the Raising Rally clerk positions.
Moved and seconded to approve posting and refilling the Raising Riley clerk position. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Come out of, Board of Health and back into being Board of County Commissioners.
Getting there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll move that we recess as the Board of County Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commission.
I'd second that.
Been moved and seconded to recess as the Board of Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. All in favor?
Aye.
And I had something and I can't remember what it was.
Must be pretty important.
It seemed like it at the time,
It
but
sounded, yeah, I thought it was.
I'm still in jet lag, so if I've come up with it, I'll write it down for Monday.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Well, I don't either. I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting of the March 6th meeting of the Raleigh County Commission.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to reset to adjourn the March